Sarah, this is Nicole with IT. Can you get...
Leave them here.
She's not talking.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
Hello?
ma'am, you are.
Okay, sorry, I was on mute.
Okay, gotcha. All right, stand by, Sarah. We may have you do one more test.
If they're not vaccinated, though, they do not.
Okay, just let me know when.
Right. If they're vaccinated, they stay. If they start to show symptoms, yeah, and they should be wearing. Yeah.
All right, Sarah, that was good. We hear you loud and clear. Thank you.
I don't know.
Thank you.
I don't know if that may spread. I don't know, because, I mean, it's a CDC, it's like isolation quarantine. You know, so for 14 days, because yeah, I'll find out about vital. Oh, no, I don't think so. Unless they're not vaccinated, then one of them may not be vaccinated. A medical issue. So, yeah. So let me see if I can find out.
Can you mute that?
No, I'm here too. Okay, thanks. Bye.
Testing 1 2 testing.
When you're presenting, Annette, you can toggle yourself. You can forward.
Testing 1 2 mic check. Testing 1 2 3
They're an awkward
mic check.
few seconds.
Test.
You're waiting, but
Right
you
here?
can, you can do it
Okay.
yourself.
Okay, but they'll pull it up.
Yeah, they should be.
Mic check, test 1
whenever
2
you're ready to start, it should
mic
be ready
check.
to go, and then you should.
So just push.
Yeah.
And go back if I needed to.
Right.
Testing
Okay.
1 2. Oh, yeah.
They can do it back there too, but sometimes there's that awkward.
Okay, yeah, that pause.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sure. He says he put them up there and then somebody took them. I said, well, at 10 o'clock or something, because it was at the end workshop. Who would want that, right? Was it? Yeah. Beat up on that. You don't know everything there is to know about it?
I know more about the revenue. Ask me more, except that I thought that.
Yeah.
And afterward, we don't.
Yeah, it'll just, there won't be an ending slide, it'll just, when you hit it, it'll go to, development services.
Okay. Okay, so we're not, we ask it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they probably will throughout
They
the,
probably will, and then we can leave, or we stay?
no, you can leave.
Okay.
You got,
Segment remarks.
6 people out there to take.
Thank you, Eddie. Did you help him?
Yes,
Okay, thanks.
he was asking for information that.
Okay.
He wants to look at budget.
So have you had an opportunity to...
I don't know, a little bit.
Good morning, everyone. I'll call this meeting to order. Let's see, today, good morning, Annette. Today, we have a presentation on, first presentation is on our health district.
Yes, that's correct, Mayor.
Oh, I'm sorry, do we need to call the roll? Yes, is that what you were going to say, Councilman? Who's? Oh, I thought somebody spoke.
This is Sarah
Sarah's gonna
Brockenhopper.
be
I'll be
calling
calling
the
the
roll.
roll today.
I'm sorry?
Sarah's going to be
Can you hear
calling the
me?
roll.
Sarah, okay.
Can everyone hear me?
I'm here.
Can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Yes,
Okay. Mayor Paulette Warhart.
present.
Council members Roland Barrera,
Here.
Gil Hernandez,
Here.
Michael Hunter,
Here.
Billy Lerma,
Here.
John Martinez,
Here.
Ben Molina,
Here.
Mike Pusley, Greg Smith,
Here.
City Manager Peter Zanoni,
Present.
City Attorney Miles Risley,
Here.
Mayor and Council, a quorum of the council and the required charter officers are present to conduct the meeting.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. So Mayor and Council, this is another workshop on the budget. And just as a reminder, last night we concluded our 5th community workshop with the community. It was City Council District 5 with Councilman Hernandez. And we want to thank the community for adjusting and still reaching out to us via the Zoom meetings or the WebEx, the virtual meetings instead of in person. We know our COVID cases are up, and so anything we can do to protect the community and our employees is appreciated. So today is another workshop. We have quite a few departments lined up. If we were scheduled to go to noon, so if we don't finish them today, we can resume Tuesday if the council so desires before the council meeting like we did this week. We're going to begin with Annette so she can get back to protecting the community, our health district, and then that'll be followed by development services, parks and recreation, library, and then if time allows, neighborhood services and asset management departments. Okay, yeah.
Full
so
schedule
it's a
today.
full schedule for sure, yes. So as I said, if we don't finish, we'll resume on Tuesday.
Okay.
Okay, great. Thank you, Annette.
Thank you, Peter.
Thank you. Good morning. I'm going to go ahead and get started. I think everybody here knows the mission of the Health Department while they're pulling up the slides, but the mission basically is to prevent disease and disability and to promote healthy lifestyle and protect the health of all residents of Nueces County. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about the Health Department. I think everybody knows a lot about the Health Department, but I'm still going to tell you a little bit. You can see the slide here in the middle. We have our national emblem, which basically says prevent, promote, and protect. It looks a lot like police and fire, but public health and safety, we are part of that, police, fire, and health as well. We do have a local health authority that was appointed by both the city and the county, Dr. Ramachandruni, infectious disease physician, and many thanks to him for all of his help this past year and a half. We also have something that's a little different than all the other departments. We have full-fledged county paid employees that sit right next to city paid employees at the health district. Our organizational chart is here. You see under myself, I have 2 assistant directors. You also see to the left of me, the local health authority, who falls under both the city and the county, as well as the state of Texas. He is appointed by the state. He falls under the Commissioner of Health, Dr. Hellerstadt. And then we also have our public health provider, Dr. Onefrak. We have our pathologist that oversees our laboratory, Dr. Simonson. And we have a pharmacist. So underneath there, you see Protection Division, Promotion Division, and Prevention Division. And then we have services that fall under all of these divisions. The other unusual part of this organizational chart is that if you see a name that's completely in blue, that's a city general fund paid employee. If you see it completely in red, that's a county general fund paid employee. If you see it in green, it's a city grant paid employee. And if you see it in purple, it's a county grant paid position. So, and if you see it in half and half, it could be a 60-40, it could be a 50-50, 60% paid by the city, 40% paid by the county, sometimes 50%, 50%, like Dr. Ramachandruni, he's half and half.
Annette, I'm going to interrupt you here for a minute. I just can't see it, but the only green I see, which is a city grant fund staff, who is that?
That's Denzel, he's over our protection division, he's our epidemiologist.
Okay.
So yes, but there are other greens, they just fall lower
Right.
down, so yes.
I see, okay, thank you.
Uh-huh. For the achievements this past year, of course, responding to the COVID pandemic efficiently with full transparency to inform and educate our leaders and our community. We've also conducted over 11,000 COVID tests, which is swabbing, in Nueces County, and over 53 positive contacts have been made to talk to the positive cases. And we know that we're about 53,000 positives here in Nueces County. We've given over 137,000 vaccines and over 58,000 second doses. Another achievement was also that we've applied for and received over $20 million in new COVID funding. So that's exciting for us. And then also that we've continued to provide services like TB, vital statistics, and also engaging in hurricane preparedness and back-to-school vaccines. For our performance measures, they look a little different because of COVID-19. For environmental, I'm not going to say they're really complaints, but mostly there were a lot of questions about executive orders for restaurants, social distancing, how do we do it, who has to wear a mask, does everybody that's working in the back have to wear a mask? So, we've met our measures for the most part. It looks a little odd, the health education outreach, because that's normally where we go to schools and we do different presentations there. But we added a lot of things that we've done to educate the community with COVID-19, and rightfully so. And then for immunizations, it also looks different there because of the number of COVID vaccines that we've given. So we estimated 124,000 for 2021. We've exceeded that number. But our target for next year, we only estimated 62,000 because we were thinking about the pediatric vaccines we would be giving, but we hadn't really considered the boosters, so that number is going to exceed 100,000. For our public health services, we have enforcing health and safety codes. That's really where our environmental staff come into play. We have 18 positions there, so that's where we do our restaurant inspections, our swimming pool inspections, our OSSF inspections, and then we have disease prevention at the bottom left corner, and we have 21 positions there. And that's where we do our public health emergency preparedness. We have our strategic national stockpile, our medical reserve corps if we need to call them in. We have our Texas epidemiology grant as well as our biological safety lab. And then you'll see the lion's share of our services are under the medical clinics. We have 65 positions there, and that's immunizations, community health, tuberculosis, STD, women's health, and WIC, which stands for Women, Infant, and Children. And in the bottom right-hand corner, we have 12 positions that we allocate towards conducting health education, and that's to help with press releases, disease mitigation, vaccine preventable disease education, and diabetes education. We also have 3 clinics. We have one in Robstown at the Calderon building, and we have our main Horn Road services, as well as a mobile clinic that WIC uses to go out and try to get as many clients signed up as possible. For our proposed budget, it's $31.8 million, which you can see is an increase from last year. There was 12.4. This is mainly due to our COVID grants. We had one grant that was $18 million. So if you look at the city general fund, we received $3.6 million. If you look at the county general fund, we received $1.5 million for a total of $5.1 million for the 2 general funds. If you look at the percentages, a lot of people want to see if it's 60-40%, because that's kind of the split that we're always looking at. It's about 70% on the city side and about 30% on the county side currently. If you look at total with the grants, it's 31.8%. At the bottom, if you look at staffing, for the city general fund, we have 29 and a half positions, which is about 25% of the health district staff is paid for by the city general fund. And then we have 18 and a half positions that are paid for by the county general fund, which is about 15% of the health district staffing. And then the other positions, the city grants, the 39 and a half, and the county grants, the 28 and a half, make up 68 positions. And so that's about 60% of the health district staff come from grants. For this next slide, we have expenditures and revenues. If you look at the inside of the pie, we have the expenditures, we have administration at the health district, which takes up the lion's share of the expenditures, $1.34 million, and that's mostly personnel cost. For environmental, $520,000. For immunizations, $270,000, and our laboratory expends around $280,000. For revenues, the ones that bring in the most revenues for the health district are our environmental program at around $580,000, and also vital statistics at around $377,000 for birth and death certificates that they sell on an annual basis. Administration brings in around $530,000. Much of that is from the intergovernmental relationship with the county to pay for those positions that are 60-40 and some additional cost as well. We did have a bond 2018 for general improvements and rehabilitation at the health district. It was a 1.1 million bond. We've expended 500,000 of that, and we're planning on expending 649,000 next year to continue for plumbing repairs and roofing repairs as well. As far as enhancements, we have a community selling program that's exciting, that focuses on promoting healthy living for everybody in Nueces County. And this is a $700,000 contract. We have received RFPs, and we will award the contract next year. So we're really excited about this program, and we can't wait to see everybody out there on our beautiful Bayfront. And with that, I will conclude, and if you have any questions, I'm available.
What is this, the program? I'm sorry, I missed that last statement.
You're referring to the last slide here? Yeah, so this, it has to come to City Council for approval, but we did do an RFP for a Healthy Living Initiative. There's some money that has been available in the Health District's budget for a couple of years. One of the respondents was for a sailing program on the bay. A nonprofit would have sailing classes.
Right.
The dollars would be used for purchasing boats, training youth across the city. The RFP required that a percentage of the students or participants be from low-income neighborhoods, and so I think it's like 25% has to be guaranteed. So it's not awarded yet. We still have to go through due diligence and then bring it to City Council for consideration.
If I recall, it was requested that we look to see what, outside of just sailing, these monies could be used for in different districts, you know, whatever sport, swimming, baseball, soccer. Anyway, I mean, I think that's important that we all talk about what might be, I just didn't know where the sailing came from.
Well,
Because that was,
yeah.
I requested that.
Right.
Or I brought that up back then. No one never said, this is going off the subject, but that, it's just concerning. I'm not against sailing.
Right.
But I think that this council needs to talk about allocating $700,000 towards an initiative for health And that's a broad conversation. But anyway,
okay.
to your point, it's health, and we all want that. So we'll go ahead and address some questions now. Councilman Hernandez.
All right, Annette, thank you for your presentation. I did want to ask you about your personnel expense. In the 19-20 budget, you had $949,000. In the 2021 budget, you doubled the amount on personnel expenses to $1.8 million. And you're asking for $2 million for personnel expenses today, but you're actually going down in FTEs from 59 to 55. Can you explain your expenses?
Yes, a lot of that is overtime.
No, I checked the line item budget. You don't have that budgeted in overtime.
Right, but they put it in there. My understanding, and I apologize, I don't have my accountant here today. Her husband passed away. But my understanding is that they put it in there, and then they journal entry it out when FEMA reimburses. So it does, because it looked all skewed to me as well. And so, no, the expenses are for personnel are not doubling. It just looks that way because of the overtime expenditures.
Okay, well, what I'm saying is it's not budgeted for overtime in your line item budget.
Right,
If
right.
if we're just looking at what's budgeted for overtime,
Very little.
it's $9,300.
Right, very little.
Okay,
but-
so, it doesn't make sense with what you're budgeting and what you're explaining.
Right. It didn't make sense to me either. I'm going to agree completely. They just had to have a placeholder, I guess, somewhere to put that amount of money that was expended because of the pandemic, but then they journal entry it out. So,
I don't understand that. Can somebody from finance explain that?
Councilman, are you quoting from the budget book or something in here?
I request the line item budget as to where, how it's broken out, right? So you don't necessarily, here it only says personnel expense. Now, obviously, if you look at that from the personnel expense, you see a doubling of funding from 2019 to last year, which can make sense. But this year, going from this year from last year, the total number of FTEs is going from 59 to 55.5. So you're actually reducing your number of people, but you're increasing your pay. So then I went to the actual breakdown to where it shows salaries, benefits, overtime.
In the budget book?
In the line item budget, which you can, you can actually download from our website from the current years. But for what's planned, it's only $9,309 planned for overtime. So I'm just trying, it doesn't quite make sense. If we're planning for a lot of overtime, which would sound reasonable considering the situation we're in with the pandemic, but it's not there. So kind of explain what the issue is here.
Well, I need to look at it closer, but we didn't anticipate any overtime with the 21 with the 9,000, and they incurred a lot of overtime, and then they
Yeah, but we got funding from the federal government, right?
Yeah,
to cover that. So I'm not concerned about last year.
Right.
I'm concerned about the budgeting process for this year.
Right.
Are we planning a lot of overtime? It's not
Yeah,
in your budget.
It wasn't budgeted there. We would, the grant would take care of some of it. If there was some overtime that was not covered by the grant, we'd have to go find extra funds if there ended up being quite a bit of overtime that was not covered by a grant. Because when it's recorded in the general fund, and then it would be pulled out and put into a grant.
Okay, so.
But so we didn't budget for it.
So
You're correct.
You're not budgeting for it, but you have you still have the $2 million in when you add in all the personnel expense, and I'm assuming all benefits are in there with the personnel expense, right?
Right.
It's still $2 million.
Right.
Okay, and you still are reducing your FTEs, but you're increasing your expenses.
I think the reduction in FTEs is grant. Yeah.
Okay, so you're consistent with your FTEs regarding the ones that are operating personnel that are not grant paid for at 29.5.
Right.
Okay, so that hasn't changed at all, but your pay has increased by double.
Yeah, I need to look at that a little closer to get you a better answer. I need to, yeah, make sure I'm getting you the correct answer.
All right, I mean,
yeah.
I just, it doesn't,
No, I agree. Yeah, let me look at it a little closer, and I'll get you an answer.
okay, I would ask that you put
Maybe
it
before the end of the workshop here.
that way
Okay.
you can give it to everybody.
Right, sure. Absolutely.
Okay. The question on that program on the last slide of the $700,000, being a sailor myself, I was qualified as a third-class sailor, I understand it. But you have to swim to be able to sail. Okay, so I think we're putting the cart before the horse,
That's part-
and that funding should go to learn to swim programs.
Yeah, Councilman, part of the respondents' response was that they would teach to swim as well. Yeah, there's swimming classes, and they'd have to learn how to.
No, I mean,
operate
if
in
you're
the
going to be
water.
sail, when you're learning to sail, you generally learn to sail on, 12-foot boats.
They're small boats.
They're
right.
small boats. They
Yeah.
tend to flip over.
That's why they're going to
Okay.
teach. That's why part of their curriculum includes.
Well,
swim.
I think there's, learning to swim and promoting swimming is much more healthier activity than sitting on a sailboat.
Well, it includes.
Trust me, I've
both.
done both.
Yeah, it includes both, Councilman.
I've done both.
Right, it
Okay.
includes both.
I thought the same thing, and they said, you're not sitting on the sailboat, you're working. I was like,
Well,
oh,
I mean,
you're
you're
actually.
pulling on the sail, and depending on what kind of
I've never done it, so.
I have, and you could have, there's multiple sails you could use. On my guess is you're probably just going to use the main sail, and you're pulling on it, you're tacking, you're moving back and forth. There is some exercise to it, but not necessarily the cardiovascular exercise you would get with swimming. So I've had experience in both, extensive experience in both. So thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. I also, well, first off, I got a couple of questions. When do you plan to hire an assistant director?
We have an assistant director.
Oh, well, I saw interim on here.
Right, so what, the assistant director's on temporary
Yeah,
placement.
when do we plan to have a permanent one?
We have an interim one right now, so we're not too sure when we'll have the permanent.
Have we advertised? Are we advertising?
No.
Where are we at? Are we satisfied with the interim? Or do
Yeah,
we plan-
Reba's here with us today, Reba George in front.
So,
Yeah,
I'm
so-
just wondering, when are we going to remove the interim?
We just started it, so give us a little bit of time for the transition.
It's their first week.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, I'm just ensuring that.
The position's still filled, Councilman,
Yeah.
so we don't, we have the ability to move executives around when we have
I
gaps.
understand, I
Right.
understand. I just know that, we've got interim people, and I think it's probably, in my opinion, it's probably better suited for the individual to know that they're permanent versus having to move from position to position. I mean,
We
I
agree,
think,
yeah, right.
So-
But we keep business running, so there's executives that have talent can be moved around. That's not, it's not uncommon.
So you haven't answered my question, and soon is not an answer.
Right. We don't know yet, so it could be.
Okay, that's an answer.
Yeah, we don't know. We just began the transition. We needed a parks director, and we've moved the assistant director from health to parks since he was highly talented and kind of fits with health. And then we have an interim backfill, Reba George, and that just started Monday.
Okay. Well, I think very highly of Reba, so I'm not
Reba's doing a great
denying
job.
that, but I'm just, once again, have an expectation that, for an organization of our size, that we just have I'm a little disappointed. I would think that we'd have a better action plan in place. So,
Okay.
as professionals,
Right, we have an executive recruiter right now helping us
Perfect.
fill the parks director, so.
all right, I'm not gonna beat a dead horse. Okay, and this kind of goes into the sailing thing also, and the community outreach. In what I've noticed in the statistics in the 78415 zip code, which is in my district and Councilman Molina's district, and a little bit also in Councilman Lerma's, we've probably had the highest number of positive cases, as well as the highest number of deaths. So I guess what is it that we're doing for outreach? And my personal opinion, because in the industry I'm in, because I knew that before going, I knew that we still had those challenges in those areas. There's a prevalence of hyperlipidemia, there's a propensity for hypertension as well as diabetes. And I see that we have these diabetes education programs. At what point do we, what system are we using to ensure that we're flattening the curve? And I would think with these COVID monies that we're utilizing, I think the mayor's program to try and vaccinate people and go into their homes is fantastic. So what specific programs are we doing to flatten the curve in that zip code?
That's a great question. So what we're doing currently is we're bringing in staffing. So with some of these grant funds, and we're actually training what we call strike teams, vaccination teams, if you will. And then based on the data that you just mentioned, we're sending them out. Of course, we've just started this process, so we're just getting them trained right now. We had them yesterday at the third vaccine clinic so they could, get those competencies that they need to, so that we can check them off and go out as strike teams. But our plan is to have them like at the taquerias, at the McDonald's, and to be there consistently 7 days a week. And so they build a rapport with individuals. We also want to send them out to different faith-based organizations. And so we've been reaching out to different churches, and we've been going to some of these churches to vaccinate as well. And so the Department of State Health Services is also giving us information on which areas are seeing worse outcomes. And we're looking at targeting those areas to go out to locations that people will allow us to be at, to make sure that we can reach these communities. What they're really wanting us to do is to be more internal to residents, not just out at a place that maybe they can't walk to, but maybe internal to the communities, so that way they can actually get to us. So it might be, again, a faith-based church that's in the middle of a residential area. Those are the places that we're looking to establish a vaccination clinic. Even if we have to pay the churches to do this, we really need to be there where the people need us, so that way they don't have to, go a long way to get the vaccine. And we appreciate the mayor's, the new program where they can just call. We can go to them. So there's a lot of different things that we're trying to do, but the main one is trying to be out in so many different areas of the community, especially those in 78415, those harder hit areas, the Robstown area, so that we can be available to educate them and talk to them about maybe why they're hesitant to get vaccinated and the importance of getting vaccinated.
Well, it's not only vaccinations. I mean, the thing is addressing all the comorbidities. And I know I'm preaching to the choir, particularly with you. I can tell you when a third of the population is diabetic, and if we're to take responsibility for that, then what have you, we need to hold ourselves accountable to flattening that curve, so to speak. Outdoor activities. I think sailing is a little bit of a stretch, and I'll speak to that in a minute. But, outdoor activities, eating healthy. I know Amistad Community Health Center has different programs that they utilize. But I think with the amount of funds that we have, we need to be marketing that more. I could tell you that a large percentage of our community's illnesses are health style related. Are basically, so I think we need to take greater responsibility to utilize that to get people, obviously exercising, eating healthy, taking personal responsibility, understanding, making healthy food choices that are affordable, versus, fast food or whatever. I mean, I understand it has its place, but we've got to take more responsibility for that. And obviously Austin, Texas is a different demographic, but it's considered one of the healthiest cities in the country. And a lot of it is because of parks. So I would think that we need to put those two together so that way we can create a healthier community for more activity, as Councilman Hernandez says, for swimming. I mean, that's another great one. Now I'll complain about the sailing deal. And I go back to my district, and I understand that we have to reach out to, and I know this is just set in your department, so this is basically over the entire staff, that I look at it from two ways. Number one, growing up, I grew up in the 78416 zip code area. So and then I moved when I was 20 to the 78415 zip code. My life expectancy in the 7841 zip code was about 76 years old. And then when I moved to 78415, it moved to 78. And then now that I'm in 78413, it's 82. So what that tells me is that economics and affluence, basically helps people to have a better lifestyle, and it's an access to care issue.
Right.
So I think activities, once again, I know growing up, I'm a decent baseball player, but the thing is I wasn't good enough for Moody High School. And, but those kids played in that area. Yeah, or that's it. But my point bringing that around is that, once again, there's baseball fields out there that are in disrepair. And those are activities that get kids outside, get parents outside. I know we're looking at improvements to Salinas Park. I just think we need to look at those details as that we can create more activity.
Right.
And once again, so how is it that we because those individuals, the challenges they have, when I grew up, it was a treat to go to the Bayfront. It was a treat. It's not something that I did every day, And so I want to know, how are we going to get those children over there? And I think it's a great program, but we've got these other programs that are in place that we're not utilizing. I don't know how many times I get called by International League, by Universal Little League. Hey, we need help with our fields. Hey, our equipment is overrun. Hey, we don't have enough funds to get out there. And I know that's parks, but once again, that's a healthy activity.
Right.
So that way we can get people out. Now, I know we're trying to move the needle with children, but once again, what are we doing also for the elderly? I know we have the senior centers, and to market that. I think for the elderly people that are in Molina or whatever, are they going to go sailing? I mean, that's the thing. $700,000. I can just see. My mother needs to walk more often, and I try to get her to walk, but she's 88 years old. I doubt she's going to get in a sailboat. But if I could get her into some water program, so that way she can do some water aerobics, I think that would be great. So I'm just saying that I think there's a lot more that we can do. I'd like some more information on the sailing. I mean, can you expand on all the gibberish I just threw out there, my frustrations?
Yeah. And if I may, Annette, I'm going to intervene here. I completely agree with you. There is, number one, it's funny you mentioned that Neiman and Dr. Young and I are going to be going to every baseball park. I think it's next week sometime, because of what you just said. Their baseball parks are in complete disrepair, and we need to put some attention to them. And that's nothing new. That's probably across every city, in the state. But to put it just very simply, and I don't believe you have, I think you were saying, hey, health, give me anything healthy, I'll take it. It is up to this body to say, we're going to take $700,000 and put it towards one sport, or 4 different ones, or one other one. I think you should learn how to swim before you get on a boat and drown. I think that, again, our baseball, and I'm a baseball mom, so yes, I'm a little, just like Councilman Hernandez is a swimmer dad. We all have our kids, and they all play something. So it's a conversation that needs to happen. That's not even, Annette, I don't even think you're part of that in terms of, you don't care. You're like, just give me something that helps our health, right, to improve, right, what we can do. The elderly, that's perfect. There's so many things, but I think that's a whole conversation in itself, and I think it's easy enough to pull that right out of there and say, we need to talk about that and have a conversation that is inclusive of all of us.
And Mayor, I think the thing is that in some of these grant funds, there's some of us, I consider myself an industry expert, candidly, with regard to try and have a healthier, because of my career, that we're trying to flatten that curve to, number one, reduce costs. So the thing is I'd like to have a little bit more say-so in how we're utilizing those grant funds,
Right.
to be able to move the needle, and that's what I'm disappointed in.
Okay.
And on another note, with regard to marketing these events that you have, whether they be, I have relationships where I grew up at Holy Family Catholic Church. I went over here to Sacred Heart Elementary. I say all the time, my grandfather was on the construction team, and, I go to Most Precious Blood. So any of those organizations, I'd be happy to help you market it or to help the organization market it. The mayor's a Facebook queen, of Corpus Christi, and so I'm sure she would love to be able to share that information with her network, so that way we could get that information out. I just don't think we're doing enough.
Yeah.
And we want to help you. We're your
Yeah.
partners.
Well,
Thank
well
you, I
said,
appreciate
Councilman.
that.
Well said. And I just also, we have Councilman Molina and Councilman Smith. The program, this is interesting. Thursday, we had 82 people call the in-home vaccination program. Thursday, we had 82 people call in to register. Friday, we had 89. Monday, we had 92 people. These are all people that are calling in to say, I want an in-home vaccination that we would not have reached, right? Which is
Exactly.
the point. Tuesday, we had 48 people. Yesterday, we had 178 people.
No, wonderful.
And we're constantly trying. I put out that graphic, I think you used it too, just to try and let people know, look, this is extremely, I know I don't have to say this all over again, but it's a constant educational thing, and Annette, we're always in conversation about that. Councilman Molina.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm not necessarily opposed to the sailing program, but to me, it sounds like that would be a Parks and Rec program that they would take on. And so when I think of promoting healthy living, I kind of like what Councilman Barrera said. I'm thinking of healthy eating, lifestyle education, or outdoor activities, stuff like that. And he made a really good point. A lot of the fatalities that we're seeing with COVID are due to these comorbidities. And if we can use some of this money to address those comorbidities, I think in the long run that would help us as a city, as a whole. So I like I said, I'm not necessarily opposed to the sailing program, but I think I would like to know more about the program at the appropriate time. But just personally, I think I would like to see money used towards these healthy lifestyle education programs and outreach.
Understood.
And on those, Mr. Zanoni, it's a Medicaid program, so isn't there a stipulation as to uninsured children being a part of this?
Annette, we'll have to answer that. Annette?
Yeah, so this is money that was from the 1115 waiver, and so they prefer that individuals that are uninsured or underinsured, reap the benefits of the program. And so that's why when the RFP went out, there was a certain percentage that they had to reach that population. So, but it could be teaching healthy living classes, which we do with our diabetes program. It really has a large scope to it. Once you make the money with the 1115 waiver, and that's the money that was made by the health district, then you can utilize the money for any type of healthy living behavior, as long as it does have a certain percentage that it reached for the uninsured or the underinsured individuals.
And when you say reach, include in this program?
Yes. So some of them, when they submitted their proposals, they put like scholarships, like they would give scholarships to people that, that wouldn't otherwise be able to come to these programs, or that they would pick up these children, at the schools to be able to be part of an after school. And so there was, I don't think there were very many. I can't remember. It's been a while since that went out. And then with COVID, kind of things got put on hold. So, but we can revisit these and look at them, because these funds are for healthy,
Right.
Changing people's behaviors.
But because that RFP went out, doesn't mean we have to continue that, correct?
No, it doesn't. And it's based on what we're hearing today, we probably won't.
Okay.
Well, if you have, and I know you have programs in place already that deal with outreach and education, if there's a program that is more successful or could use a boost, I think we should consider spreading this money to augment and enhance those programs. And like some of us were saying up here, maybe market it a little bit better to the community, because I'm aware of some of these programs, but I know the general public may not be aware of all the options that they have through your department.
Okay,
Thank
good
you.
point.
Thank you. Councilman Smith.
Thank you, and I really want to echo Councilman Molina. I think he framed my thoughts very well, but sailing, whether this is the appropriate use, is probably not for this, but I don't think we should sink sailing on there, and particularly this program had a very much an inner city element to it, so to Councilman Barrera's comment, it was a treat to go to the Bayfront, having a program that does open sailing up to our inner city on there. It shouldn't be a treat. It should be kind of what you expect there. So I hope, whether it's through the health district, the park, something like that, that we do have some program with the city that offers our beautiful Bayfront to all. And what we saw there in Ron with the tennis program. You know, he wasn't, this wasn't country club tennis. This was Corpus Christi tennis. And I think when I talked to some of the sailing people, that's what they described to me. And I don't know if it was for this program or not, because we had them up here at council talking about that. But how can we be able for all kids in this city to have the opportunity to enjoy and learn the water? You know, of course you need to swim on there, but our Bayfront, our Laguna Madre, our different bodies of water they're unique in themselves. It's not like swimming in a pool. You know, when you open water swim, it's completely different than lap swimming in a pool. And so I do hope if the health district is not the right way for it, that we still do look at sailing as part of our community, and a sailing program that is open to every single person in this community on there. And we particularly try to attract the people that haven't had that access in the past.
Thank you.
That's all the questions we have.
Mayor, I'd like to add something to that. I just want to echo Councilman Molina and Councilman Smith. My grandfather was one of the founders of one of our youth sailing programs in this city, and they did outreach to all different kids around the city. And in this sailing program, one of the things that they teach is how to swim. So I am in support of the sailing. I think we are a big city, so I think that we need to have the opportunity to offer a lot of different opportunities. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Barrera.
I just want to say I'm not opposed to sailing. I just think that we need to.
Yeah.
I just once again I just think that we need to expand. You know, and I want to ask something else. You know, you're the expert, and you've obviously had these opportunities for with all these grant funds. Is there something that we're missing that you think we need to do?
That is the magic question. So, you know, I think, you know, just more of the social media. So we don't do a lot of that, at least not specifically from the health district. So I appreciate, you know, the offer that all of you could help with that. Y'all are very good at that. And everybody's on social media. So maybe promoting more of these things, you know, would be a really good way to help people to actually change behavior.
Well, I guess one thing I wanted to, mine is a little bit more broad than that. You know, I try to tell each department, you know, when I talk to some of the ACMs, and I say we need to provide as much of a Walt Disney experience as possible. Obviously, the health district, that's kind of difficult to do. But I guess the way I could put that, if money and time were no object, what is it that you could do? And then once I tell people, once you build that goal, then how are we going to get there?
Right.
And that's what I challenge you to do, so that way you can tell us what it is that you need, whether it be staffing, because you're that component is so important. You know, this whole issue about the mask mandate, you know, you need to work through that, not decide what there's a mandate or not, but whatever the governor's decision is, you're going to have to work through that. And since we've got all these funds, I think we need to challenge ourselves more to figure out what can we really do to flatten that curve and get people healthy. So think about that, and hopefully we can review it before we approve the budget.
Thank you, Councilman. But I will say that 23 years ago when I started, my vision was sidewalks, splash pads, you know, it's so hot here. You have to, if you have a community park, you have to have some type of water feature. For us at least, big trees, shade, you know, community schools the way we used to have. Community stores where people can walk to the store and pick up. So I definitely have the vision. It's just coming together and working with Development Services and Parks and Recs to see if we can't, you know, make that vision become a reality. Thank you.
Councilman Pusley?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I just want to say, all you sailing enthusiasts listening in out there, please send your emails to Councilman Barrera and Councilman Hernandez. I think sailing is great, so.
It is great. We love it. We support sailing.
Annette, on your, I want to go back to slide 8 that shows your pie chart and your budget numbers. And tell me a little, so what you're showing here is that with the general fund contributions from both the city and the county, including grants that come to your department from the city and county, the city is contributing 26.2 million, or about 82.4% of your budget. And
That's correct.
And the county is 17.6 with about 5.6 million.
Councilman Pusley, the city's actually more, so the 22.6 is just the grant. If you follow that green clockwise, there's another 3.6 million.
I'm sorry, I meant to say that as well.
Yeah, so it's 26.2, I guess, if my math is right.
Right.
26.2 million from grants in the general fund.
Yeah, and then,
compared to the county's 5.5?
5.6.
5 yeah, so
Yeah,
5.6 compared to 22.
And then you have a general fund contribution of 1.5 from the county and 3.6 from the city.
Right.
Okay. Is that correct, Annette?
That's included in those numbers. So you see the city of Corpus Christi, the 26.2 is the two combined. It's the general fund and the city grants. And then the Nueces County, the 5.6 is their general fund and the county grants. So
Okay.
for a total of 17.6%.
Isn't that what I just said?
Yes, that's
Okay.
exactly what you said.
What were you saying, Peter? I'm confused now.
Well, you had said the city's amount was 22.6, but that's the grant.
I'm sorry, I meant to say 26.2.
Yeah, right, and that's it. That was my point. Is
That's
it?
my fault, I'm sorry.
No worries, yeah.
Okay, so with budgeting your grant amounts, I'm real curious about this because I've made a big deal about this. Are these grants that you get every year so you 100% can depend upon them, or are you just budgeting because you think you're going to get them? Or it's assumed that you're going to get them?
Most all of our grants, we get them every year. So these are new COVID funds, so we know that those we won't be getting every year, or we hope at some point we won't. But the majority of what we budget for are grants that we consider them grants from many, many years ago that we get on an annual basis.
Okay. So for example, in 2021, you show here on your line items, city grants at 3.1, and then for fiscal year 22, am I understanding that correct? You're expecting 22.6?
That is correct, because of the $18 million grant that we received this year.
That you received from the government.
Right, and then a couple of additional COVID grants that we've received as well. We have a workforce co-ag grant for $2.2 million included in there as well, so.
Okay, so really, with the grants and the general fund contribution, the city is contributing 82.4% of your budget?
That's correct.
That's correct. That's compared to the county's 17.6.
That's correct.
So those grant monies could go up or down next year in the 2023 budget, depending on what happens with COVID and all that.
They could.
We hope it goes down. Okay. Okay, that's all I had. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, Councilman Lerma.
Thank you, Mayor. Annette, I just want to, first of all, say thank you to you and your staff for all you do. You guys have had an unbelievable year this year with the pandemic and all that, and you guys are still running 100% ahead of everything. My colleagues talk about programs that are out there, and you know what? I'm with them, but I'm going to agree about the sailing. I'd like to see swimming be a big part of that sailing. You know, but I also would like for us to promote more using our parks and walking for our seniors. We do have some senior centers in some of the parks. I know Guth Park has a facility there that I'd like to get promoted more, to let seniors know it's a beautiful park to walk. You know, somebody mentioned something about a splash pad, even though I have Councilman Hernandez one in a pool at his park, but that's okay. Splash pad, I think, is excellent. I would love to see one in the Guth Park area. We do have a swimming pool there, but you know what? Splash pads are just as good for those that don't know how to swim, you know, that type of thing. But I really appreciate what you and your staff do. I mean, because you guys have been at the forefront of everything, so thank you very much for all you do.
Thank you. Councilman Hernandez.
Thank you, Mayor, and to continue beating this horse. Okay, based on what we charge for swim lessons, I believe it's $50 per kid per session. We could do 14,000 swim lessons with $700,000. You know, not only is it, you know, not only do you introduce a healthy activity, but you also can then potentially save their lives.
That's
you know, you know, we've had some high-profile drownings. Jasani Smith. You know, we just had a big thing with him here recently. I want to make sure that we think about this completely. I have nothing against sailing, but I think that it could be, that money can go further in learn to swim programs and swimming programs for healthy lifestyles. You know, and to that point, it's not just about swimming pools in District 5. I'd love to see a pool replace the one that was filled in on Violet Road up in Cal Allen. I was even joking with Councilman Molina about building one at Cole Park. Okay, you know, I'm not, I just, you know, we think we need to think strategically, but, you know, we're surrounded by water, all right? And Councilman Smith is correct. Swimming in open water is different from swimming in a pool, but you got to have the basic skills. Okay, so I think swimming can save your life. You know, it can save your life. So that's all I need to say. Thank you.
Okay. Annette, thank you very much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you for all you're doing. We appreciate it.
Thank you. I think Development Services is coming up.
Okay.
Try to answer your question again here. You're looking at the actual personnel expenditures for the health department in 2020, right? The 949. Compared to a budget of $2 million this current year in 2022.
From the budget book, right,
Right.
you have personnel expense, right? And
Correct.
Shoot, I switched over to development services already. Give me a second.
Sorry.
Okay, so in fiscal year 2019, 2020, you had $949,138.
Actuals.
Actual, well, this is actuals.
Correct.
right? Okay, then in the estimated budget, not the amended budget, but the estimated budget for 2022, well, is that correct? Yeah.
Yeah.
2020, 2021 is 1.743 million, and then you have budgeted $2,064,862, but your FTEs have gone down.
Correct.
Right? So you're budgeting more money for fewer people, and there's nothing listed in overtime.
Well, the fewer people is grants, so it wouldn't be budgeted here. But the
Okay,
949 is an
okay, but even with that, it's the same amount of people, 29.5 for budgeted people,
Correct.
right? But you're increasing significantly. And
we went
that's-
from $1,865,000 budget in '21. The estimate is $1,743,000, a little less in the budget because they have some vacancies. So we went from 1,865,000 to 2,064,000, or a little over 10%.
Okay, but that doesn't, I mean, but I'm also including the budget that you had in 2019, 2020, where you still had the same amount of people, and you were at 949.
That's not a budget, that's an actual, right?
Right.
So we got $1.3 million in CARES Act reimbursements in 2020 in the health department. A ton of reimbursement from that COVID grant.
Okay, we're talking 2019, okay. So
2020, yeah.
2020, 2019, 2020.
Correct.
So you took all that money, put it into and reduced your actuals on what your expenditures are on that. Okay. Well, that makes a little more sense.
We pulled it out and put it in the grant.
Okay, so you're increasing by 10%, but not increasing people.
That's correct. Okay, so when we budget, I don't know how many vacancies they had in '21, but we budget a vacancy at the at a minimum salary. Okay, so if they had 10 vacancies in '21, and in '22 they filled 7 of those, and they only have 3, and those 7 people we hired were somewhere between a minimum and a midpoint, say, then that's going to increase your salary cost.
Well, that's where you get your I guess your actuals or your estimated versus your budget, right?
Well, we could go from budget to budget, because when we budgeted in '21, we could have had 10 vacancies. I need to go back and make sure exactly, but if we had 10 vacancies in '21 when we did the budget, we would have budgeted those at a minimum. Because we know they can't hire 10, we don't expect them to hire everybody at a minimum, but we know they can't hire 10 people on October the 1st. That's not going to happen. So the vacancies kind of...
So what is the vacancies?
I don't know how many they have. She's probably left now. I don't know how many vacancies they have right now. I don't think they have very many. Yeah.
I don't recall.
One?
Did you have
Just
vacancies
one.
last year?
They just have one.
Just one? Yeah, Reba said they just have one vacancy.
Yeah.
Just one vacancy.
Yeah.
Right.
For the 22 budget, they just probably one vacancy in there.
Okay, I still need to see more on
Okay.
on how that looks like. I mean, it just... All right.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you, Eddie.
Yes, sir.
Mayor and council, so our next department is Development Services, and Al Raymond, Director, is going to present. There is a supplemental, you all passed, there's a supplemental handout for this department, which is a revenue report. Al's going to talk about it in his presentation, but he's recommending adjusting fees in his, it's a special revenue, but it's enterprise fund. Many fees haven't been adjusted for a decade, right, or greater. So the document that he's passing out is all encompassing of all the changes. Today he'll speak to examples of them in his presentation.
Correct.
Okay. All right. Great. Thanks, Al.
As everyone should have received this document, you two, Peter and Miles. Good morning. Al Raymond, Director of Development Services. This morning we will present to you our proposed 2021-22 budget. In support, I have with me my leadership team at DSD, Nina Nixon-Mendez. She's over land development. She's been here about 3.5 years. Michael Dice, who's working remotely, is over the building division. He's been here, it will be 2 years this month. He's in on WebEx, and he's available for questions as well. Marissa Rodriguez is our interim business manager. She's been with us about 8 months. Yvette Wallace, she's over our permitting counter, front counter and permitting. She's been with us a little over 10 years. Andrew Demas, all of you know Andrew, wave your hand. Andrew is over all things plating and zoning, and he's been here about 13 years. Luke Fry, he's over all things plan review and inspections, and he's been with us about 10 months, I think. Brett Flint, he's our development services engineer, and he's over public improvements, and he's been with us about 8 months as well. And this is my team. I'm privileged to work with these professionals, and together we facilitate and try to keep the development process moving here in this city. Our mission is to build a safe and vibrant community, enhance economic opportunity, ensure a dynamic framework for quality growth and development in the future through implementation and enforcement of sustainable development regulations. As we work to achieve this mission, we will provide first-rate customer service, continuous process improvement, and ensure our staff is knowledgeable and experienced. This is kind of a snapshot of development services. On any given year, we take in about 2,600 residential building permit applications, a little under 1,000 commercial building permit applications annually. We do approximately 49,000 inspections annually, and we do somewhere in the range of 50 zoning applications, 125 plating applications, and 85 public improvement applications annually. It's not overwhelming, but it is fast-paced and very demanding because everyone who walks through our door, to them, time is money, and we are well aware of that. This is our organization. As I said, Michael Dice is over the building division, and that includes permitting, plan review, and inspections. Nina Nixon Mendez is over our land development division, which is engineering, plating, and zoning. I have leadership at every level. I think that's everything, and we have that at Development Services. Competent, talented, capable professionals. It makes a difference. Accomplishments for 2021. It's not just for my department, I think, but for the city. The council did approve the master planning and impact fee study contract. I think that's important for this community, and it will be for years to come if we are successful in getting that program launched. DSD has successfully implemented a staff training and certification incentive program. As you know or may not know, but the first and third Wednesdays of every month, we close our doors for 2 hours from 8 to 10, and we train staff. We train on our policies, on processes. We work on improving our consistency and our competency. We train on what goes on the other side of the house so that we can create a well-rounded employee. And I think that program has been very successful, and we continue to do that, and staff continues to achieve and grow under that model. And 3, Development Services effectively engaged the development community and our citizenry. I think our success lies with reaching out, right? Development Service, I mean, what we do is not complicated at all, but we just have to communicate and continue to reach out with our community. We started back in 2019. On the second Friday of every month, we hold a Development Services Task Force meeting open, to the world. We do a bi-monthly newsletter. We engage with the Coastal Bend Home Builders Association. We have a standing monthly meeting. Sometimes we meet 2 times a month. And we meet with other agencies and organizations. We as much as we can, we over-communicate, right? And so I think we've done very good so far, and we'll continue to look for more creative ways to engage the public, because I still meet people that say, I didn't know you were doing this. I didn't know I had to do that. And even though we put information out on our website and everything else, still we're just trying to be creative until we can kind of reach a majority of the people in the community in terms of understanding what we do, how we do it, and how they can learn from it. And then finally here, the Frostbank sign is removed, and we put up the sign of the city of Corpus Christi. I think we took over ownership on July 1st. The sign is a gateway. I know it's a long way into the city, and we're probably going to put a sign out somewhere north of 37, but if you're coming 37 south, and I was doing that this weekend, at night it shines. It looks like it's a gateway sign, and it's great, and we're excited about that because it speaks to the changes that are coming. So, performance measures. We have some established goals, like most departments. For example, our plan review goals are 3 business days. That means when someone submits a plan and we do an initial check to say, a completeness review says, yeah, this is a complete submission, then we have 3 business days to get a response back to that individual. So in 2020, we met that goal 93% of the time. In 2021, we met that goal 70% of the time. In 2022, we have established a target goal of 85% or better in meeting that goal. For commercial plans, and you probably all know, it's 10 business days. Again, when the submission is deemed complete and reviewed by all of the departments that have to review a commercial submission, we try to accomplish that within 10 or less business days. In 2020, we met that goal 64% of the time, which is not very good. In 2021, we've met that goal 75% of the time. And before you ask, I wanted to share with you, there are reasons for this. One, COVID, right? Adjusting to COVID. Two, vacancies, right? And one of the bigger reasons, which I think is a great problem to have, is that this year, D.R. Horton came to town, and D.R. Horton builds homes at a level much faster than our local builders. So they put a lot into the hopper, if you will. So we had to work with D.R. Horton to understand what they want, what we require, and we've developed a system of approving master plans. So we've kind of streamlined that process so that we are kind of getting back in line with everything that we do. So, and that's successful too. But again, in 2022, we are targeting 85% or better in meeting that goal, right? So inspections, 85% next day. That means that if you call on Monday, I want to schedule an inspection sometime between 8 and 5 on Tuesday, you should have that inspection. And we try to do that 85% of the time. In 2020, we've met that goal 94% of the time. 2021, 81%. And as I said, we're targeting 85% in 2022. Our zoning cases, 90 calendar days from a time someone brings an application to us, and we do a completion review and say, this application is complete. 90 calendar days or less, we try to get it through the process. That means reviewing it, going back and forth with the customer, getting it on the planning commission agenda, and then getting it on council agenda for consideration. We try to do that within 90 calendar days or less. In 2020 and 2021, we've met that goal 90% of the time. We're targeting 95% in 2022. The same thing for our planning cases. We try to do that in 45 calendar days. We met that goal, 45 calendar days to get it to the TRC, back and forth with the customer before we put it on the planning commission agenda. We met that goal 93% of the time in 20, 90% of the time in 21, and we're targeting 95% in 22. Public improvements, 25 calendar days. We've met that goal in 80% of the time in 20 and 90% of the time in 2021. We're targeting 95% in 2022. These are our primary 6 service areas. We have administration, 21 employees, 21 positions, plating, 5 positions, public improvement, 5 positions, zoning, 8 positions, plan review, 9 positions, and inspections, 23 positions. Many people always say, well, what does development services do? What do we do, right? And in the synopsis, we facilitate the creation of the built environment, right? So that covers the broad range of all of our services. Interesting. I wanted, before I go on to our proposed budget, as Peter said early on, our development services is a special revenue fund. What that means is that we don't receive money from the general fund. All of our funds, whether we're expending them or we are generating revenue, comes from development and permit fees. And in this case, our proposed budget is $13.1 million, and the slide doesn't show it. I don't know why it doesn't show it, but that's personnel expenses is $5.2 million. Operating expenses are 1.9, capital expenses is 4.5, our internal service allocations is 1.5, and that totals out to be $13.1 million. This is better. The internal circle represents the 6 service areas expenditures that total up to 13.1. The outer circle is our revenue, our proposed revenue for 2022. Inspections are proposed at $5 million. Plan review is 1.4 million. Permitting, 200,000. Public improvements, 90,000. Administration and miscellaneous, 1.4. And zoning, 260,000. just briefly going through our enhancements. We need to renovate our building, and if you've been there, you know that is a true statement, right? So I started back when we presented our last year's budget. We've got an assessment done, and that assessment has generated an opinion of probable costs, and we're still moving forward with a design package. We put out an RFQ. That RFQ was won by RVK, who is going to do our design. I'm hoping to get that to council here shortly. However, the renovation of the first and second floor is something that we need. Development services, the sign that we've got, the new sign and the new remodel, it just generate just a wonderful atmosphere for a new facility, or at least an enhanced facility, and that's really what we want to do. Initially, we want to, and briefly, we would just want to enlarge the lobby area. The entrance here is at the south, right? That's the entrance you go into now, and we want to enlarge the lobby area. To the right there, you see that large open space. That's a community room, which we can hold planning commission meetings there, other community meetings. It holds about 80 or more people. We are adding a new men's and women's restroom there at the front. Right now, everyone has to kind of go through the lobby to the back to the restroom, and so it gets tedious keeping track of people. You know, who is this person back here? But you know, when people come, we do allow them to go back to use the restroom. So we want to reconcile a lot of that, and we're creating 14 seats at the counter for possible co-location. You know, we have health there now, we have finance there now, possibly parks, utilities, gas. We're talking to AEP, so to create more of a one-stop organization. So it's something we're looking forward to. Enhancement 2, we're adding 2 building inspectors, right? Those 2 building inspectors will complete our inspection team. Our plan review team is complete. Our permit counter is a few individuals from being complete. So we're pointing or heading in the right direction there. We're adding 3 compliance inspectors to complement the 2 that we have now. The 2 positions we have, of those 2 positions, we have 1 filled now, and the 1 position he has just a full plate. And I'm happy to report that even in the short time that we've had this individual, 60% of the citations he's written has turned into permits, which is what he does. He goes and looks and says, hey, does this have a permit? Do you have a permit for this? He's often catching people like right in the middle of doing something that they shouldn't be doing. And most have come back and said, okay, what do I need to do? Take a slap on the wrist and start the process off. So it's working out for us quite well. We have 2 temporary positions, and both those positions are frontline positions, and I want to eliminate temporary frontline positions. That's kind of strange, right? My frontline people should be permanent. Because we train them, they know a lot, and permanency will help with consistency and competency and knowledge of our process. This is our other temporary position we're converting. We are requesting a custodial contract because, as I said, it's a public building. People come into our building, and it gets really ripe at times, especially the restrooms, especially the lobby. So we're wanting to get an annual contract so that we can have our building cleaned more consistently, more often, so that it looks like a public building that's well received by the public. I want this contract to do the same thing on the outside. No one comes in. We have to do our own maintenance and monitoring of the building. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just, I think we probably should get someone to do it more professionally, cutting the grass, picking up trash, just making sure the parking lot is clean, so to speak. So that's what we're requesting in this 7th enhancement.
The district attorney's been cutting grass.
And this enhancement number 8, that's funny, yes. In this enhancement number 8, we are requesting employee certification program year 2. So last year you approved year one of the program, which set aside $45,500 to recruit, retain, develop staff, right? Year two, we're requesting $56,875. Achieving certifications, it's great. It's good for us overall. It helps lower our insurance rate, the community's insurance rate. It speaks to competency, their proficiency at what they're doing. We encourage staff to pursue certifications in their own chosen fields. So we're not saying, hey, you got to go get a certification to be, I don't know, whatever. But if you're a plan reviewer or a plumber or an electrician, you can pursue those certifications, and it really just helps ensuring competency and professionalism throughout my organization. And this program just helps incentivize it. To date, I should say last year, when we rolled this out to staff, 15 staff members obtained 16 certifications. They had to attain their base certification before they can apply for the incentive program. But I'm just really impressed. That's 24% of the people that I have. And next year, I'm hoping it'll be much more. I just have to be more persuasive in encouraging staff to pursue this. But it's good for them. It's good for their development. And it's good. It carries with them, right, if they choose to move on. Hopefully they won't, but it's great professional development. And development services, as Peter said earlier, we're proposing to raise our fees. As I said earlier, we are a special revenue fund, which in essence means we essentially operate as a business, which means that whatever service we provide, I have to charge you a cost that recovers that service, right? So that we're solvent at the end of the month, at the end of the year. And so as I looked over all of our fees, beachfront construction fees haven't been raised since 2002. That's 19 years. Zoning ordinance fees, which means our rezoning applications, our PUDs, they haven't been raised in 14 years. Our technical construction fees, that's the plan review fees, permit fees, inspection fees, C of O fees, they haven't been raised in 11 years. And the UDC fees, things like platting, final plat, preliminary plat, public improvements, those haven't been raised since in 10 years, right? What we proposed, before I came, a fee study was done, and the fee study basically said we are 40% behind cost recovery, right? So we proposed to a 3-year adjustment. The first year is basically 20%. Year 2 will be 20%, and year 3 will average out at the construction cost index, which is about 2.75%. That will, in other words, that slowly gets us to where we need to get to without just, bam, here's, 50% increase, so to speak. And the next several slides are I'm going to go through that and some of the fees. Now, the presentation only deals with some of the fees that I think all of you are aware of, plan review fees, building inspection fees, but the document we passed out is the in-depth detail of all of the development services fees that we're looking to raise or adjust or eliminate, right? So, and if you have questions, we can certainly answer. I've got my team here, but I just wanted to highlight some because your constituent is going to say, oh my gosh, what's going on here? But I wanted to make a point. We are scheduled to meet with the Coastal Bend Home Builders Group today. It was set for tomorrow, but we're doing it today. And you may ask, well, why didn't you approach that group first, right? Because I wanted to approach this group first so that I could frame the message of what we want and why we want it or why we need it, so that you can have that in your mind. So when your constituency call and say, oh my gosh, the world is falling, you kind of know really how to balance, what's needed and where we go from there. So without any delay, yes, sir.
Can I just jump in also? One important fact that you brought to our attention, that's, I don't know if you brought it here to the councils, but the fee increases are only for residential construction, right? No commercial?
Correct. There's no commercial plan review and building permit fees are not touched here. You may say, well, why? Because the fee study done, and if you look at our revenue and over the years, 70%, roughly 65 to 70% of the work that we do, whether it's platting, zoning, plan review, or inspections, are with the residential group, right? The residential industry. 70% roughly 65 to 70% of the work that we do, whether it's platting, zoning, plan review, or inspections, are with the residential group, right? The residential industry. 70% roughly 65 to 70% of the work that we do, whether it's platting, zoning, plan review, or inspections, are with the residential industry. However, financially, the little bit of commercial work we do has carried that group, right? So the commercial group has paid, how do I say, I don't want to say the lion's share, but a lot of our budget, we have relied on projects like Mary Carroll High School, or I can't remember, other big projects, the Salvation Army. We relied on those big projects, and keep in mind, those big projects are at 50% cost, which somehow we passed an ordinance long ago that says, hey, you guys get 50%, but that 50% still was a lot of money, and it really carried our department. Not to say that residential group wasn't paying their fair share, but in theory, they weren't, right? So we're balancing that, right? And I've got some benchmarks here to show you how other cities around our area, close to us, charge in terms of permit and cost recovery. So we can review and comment on that as we go forward. So here, plan review fees, as Peter said, we're not touching the commercial plan review and building permit fees. So here in residential, new construction and additions, remodels, currently we're at 10%. We're proposing an adjustment of 10 cents. We're proposing an adjustment of 12 cents. For residential building permit fees, it's currently 31%, if you will. We're proposing 37 or 38 cents a square foot. Currently now the fees include, and I have to say this as well because you'll certainly get calls on this as well. Currently the residential fees, which are very, very low, include the residential permit rolls into it all of the trade permits, but we don't really charge for the trade permits, right? On the other side of the house, if you're doing a commercial job, it's the building permit fee, and all of the trade permits have its own individual charge based on the valuation of the overall job. In the residential world, we just roll, for whatever reason, we just roll it up, and we don't, I don't want to say it's for free, but it all rides on the building permit fee, which is very, very low, and you'll see that as we go forward. Right now, we're proposing to separate that out and charge those fees, and that's what these two lines represent. We're proposing 38 or 37 cents per square foot, and the trade permits will be billed accordingly, $100 or 0.05 cents per square foot, right? And I've got examples to show how that looks because it's just numbers on paper until you can put it on a house or something. So we'll talk about that before we're done here. Zoning fees, our zoning fees are not based on cost recovery, right? And so we're, sorry.
Yeah, we do. We have a couple of questions.
Sure.
Councilman Smith, do you want now or after?
No, I'd rather wait.
Wait and after. Okay, Mr. Presley?
Yes, Al, just real quickly, so in your building, you house more than one department. So is what you're saying here, the fees that you're proposing to increase are not just going to be on the building community, builders and developers, so to speak, you're also increasing fees for the electrical trades and all those to cover, so that the cost of running your operation is being spread across different groups, not just the builders.
Not just the builders, no. Okay. That's correct.
Okay. All right, good. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Councilman Vanetta? Do you have something now, or do you want to wait? Wait, okay, go ahead. We have two waiting.
Okay. Our zoning ordinance fees, simply that our fees are just not based on cost recovery, and we're proposing to base them more on cost recovery, aligning them so that our operation does recover the costs that we expend. Our land development fees, our final plats, it's all based on the same premise. Something, and I'm not sure I mentioned in the beginning, but there are services that we provide, development services, that we simply do not bill for. So for years, I've only been here coming on 2 years, but for years, services has just been given away, right, without appropriate billing, and we can't operate that because essentially, as I said, the special revenue fund, we have to operate as a business. So if we provide a service, we have to charge unless this group agrees that, hey, we're not going to charge for that. So early assistance meetings, many of you know that. Many of you even directed people to us saying, hey, this guy wants an early assistance meeting, but we don't charge for that. So we are. And the early assistance meetings is across the board. It's not just development services. It includes utilities. It includes engineering. It includes public works. Anyone we have to bring into a meeting to help a client navigate through, hey, I want to buy this piece of property, and I want you guys to tell me what do I need to know about it, and we bring these people in. That customer, that applicant, that potential applicant will be charged a fee. We don't charge for addendums, which simply means that once a permit's issued, and of course, you know, in this town, permit's issued and you go out to inspect and they build something totally different, and like, oh my gosh, you know. Normally, right now, we say, okay, you know, Mr. Smith, we try to work it out in the field. What should happen is that, hey, if you've changed something, you've got to submit an addendum. You submit that back to plan review. Plan review reviews it. It gets approved, gets out in the field, and the inspector has a new set of documents to inspect from that. And so we're trying to reconcile our operations so it looks like everyday USA. Temporary certificate of occupancies after our inspections, water contract applications, development services surcharge, so many things we give away that we don't charge for. And here's a big one that I think your constituents are really going to call you on is public improvement plan review, right? That's the private sector development, but we call it public improvements because when they're done, the asset is dedicated to the city. That's roads, that could be utilities underground, that could be stormwater infrastructure. All of that is called public improvements, but for years we have done that without charging, right? Not plan review, not inspections, but a plan review is conducted and inspections are incurred, but there's no fee to the developer. We're proposing to change that.
Can that's worth repeating. So when subdivisions are built, the city goes out and inspects things like the water lines, the sewer lines. The streets. We go out and inspect, our engineering group does. To this point, we don't charge the developer. We do it for free. Every other city charges the developer.
Correct. We do the plan review for free and we do the inspections for free.
It's about, what was it, $1 million?
It's about 1.4.
It's a value of 1.4 million that we have been eating.
Annually.
Instead of spending that money on street construction, police officers, firefighters. So Al has recognized this. We've been working on it for 2 years. This year, we're recommending the change. Last year, we identified it. We had some workaround, but this year, Al's recommending the fix, which is that the developer of the subdivision needs to pay us when we go inspect their work.
Now, knowing that there will be questions on that, and I'm sure the board
is that a set fee?
I'm going to show you here. So we're going to look on this slide, right? So yes, the plan review is set based on, just like it depends on the size of the development. 1 acre or less, it's a certain number. If 1 to 5 acres, it's a certain number. Over 5 acres, $3,600. All this is plan review, right? What I have on the slide here is the construction inspections, right? And we have a target goal. The $1.4 million that we've been incurring over the years is divided over many departments: utilities, public works. I can't remember who, and I've got Brett here. Is Brett here? I've got Brett here from Engineering Services, who's over at the construction inspections to help out if I need help. But what we need, and those other departments are splitting that cost. What we have to do here is cover about $600,000, right? So we work with Brett and others to come up with this cost that you see before you, and then I've got some scenarios down so you can understand it. But public improvements without a plat is $350 flat fee. Plats, non-preliminary, are $450 per acre, right? And there's a surcharge for plats with lots that exceed 24 lots. That's $50 a lot. So let's see what that means. So Calico Estates, one recently that we brought forth, it's about 24.6 acres. So that's times 450. That's $11,200. It has 126 lots, minus 24 because you get the 24 for free if you want to use it that way. So that's 102 lots times $50 is $5,100. Collectively, that's $16,200. Or, better said, it's $128 per lot, per se. Take Rancho Vista Unit 20. That's 9.4 acres, 9.48 acres times $450. That's $4,050. It has 76 lots proposed minus 24. So it's 52 lots times $50. That's $2,600. Collectively, that's $6,650 or $87 a lot. So it's a number that they'll have to adjust to that they hadn't received before. So it's, yeah. And by the way, I thank you all for waiting until I could get through the presentation before you ask the questions. And so I've got some scenarios here for our fees, right? And I thought these we've got some benchmarks at the bottom, and it kind of tells the story. It shows that we're not dramatically like, oh my God, look, you guys are charging this and other cities are charging that, right? We are just way out of the ballpark. So keep in mind, a 1,600 square foot house in the city of Corpus Christi, plan review and inspection is only $668. In San Antonio, that fee is $1,394. In Austin, it's $2,300, and in Houston, it's $1,700. So we are way off the mark. And so we're just proposing adjustments over year 1, 2, and 3 to bring us more in line with our cost recovery needs. The same thing for a 3,400 square foot house. It's $1,400. In San Antonio, that's $1,700. In Austin, it's $2,400. In Houston, it's $2,200. Again, we're just using year 1, 2, and 3 to bring us more in line with the cost recovery needs that we have in this community. Here's rezoning. You see our rezoning cases total about, those less than an acre is about $1,100. In the city of San Antonio, it's $1,700. In the city of Austin, it's $2,700. Our planned unit development, our PUDs, if you will, for less than 1 acre is $1,600. In San Antonio, $1,700, not that far off. In Austin, it's about $4,000. But again, the adjustments in year 1, 2, and 3 are just bringing us more in line with our cost recovery needs. The Board of Adjustments, the same numbers are revealed. Our Board of Adjustment application is $636. In San Antonio, it's $600, so we're right in the ballpark. Austin, it's $3,800. It's a little bit much. The final plat, our number for a final plat less than 5 acres is $1,000, give or take. In San Antonio, it's $1,800. In Austin, it's $10,000. Again, our year 1, 2, and 3 adjustments help get us to our level of cost recovery needed to be sustainable. And this is unique to us, obviously reimbursement agreements, so there's no benchmarking here, but we are just proposing to for example, if you have a participation agreement and a reimbursement agreement, which comes before you often, that's only about $1,300. We're proposing to realign it, so again, for cost recovery, because there's a lot of behind the scenes that goes on with that you don't see even before we get it, even before we're able to bring it to you. And so we need to recover that cost so that it balances, the work effort that goes into it. And same thing with deferment agreements. Currently, it's $1,700. We want to balance it more to the effort that's required and realign it to cost recovery efforts. So with that, that is my last slide, and we are open for questions.
Great, thank you. Councilman Smith?
Thank you very much. A few questions on there. Al, this is very enlightening. So, how many square feet is floor 1 and 2? The fire department uses 3, doesn't it?
How many square feet is floor 1? Oh my gosh! Of all of I've prepared for days, and the one question you asked, I think it's 11,000, right? It's about
for the floor, 1 floor.
I'm sorry, sir. Okay. I don't want to.
We'll get that for you.
Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's fine. Your numbers on hitting your marks on there, your performance numbers look great, but I think every time you don't, I get the phone call, because I definitely get that 10%. Joking aside, I am hearing the typical concerns from the community about being held up from development services. Your performance measures don't necessarily indicate that. But, the bigger issue, listening to this and looking at the numbers, we got really kind of a stormwater fee situation here where we've been unbalanced on there. Like you said, you look at it as a business cost of service with it, and of course there are some things we need to do additionally. I think you need a little bit more help in there, and $35,000 for making your building worth looking at, I think is very important. But I'm going over last year's numbers on there, and Development Services turned a profit. And I'm looking at the latest budget report on there, and we're $800,000 to the good this year. So it's kind of hard for me to see a 20% fee increase. We'd be showing a 25-30% profit margin if you just add 20% to the numbers, the current numbers that we have, 24% in last fiscal year, and higher than that in the current fiscal year. But I think what you presented to us is unbalanced fee structure. So maybe we ought to be looking at it, so if we know we're unbalanced, just like we did in wastewater, that I have a hard time supporting a 20% overall fee increase when I look at our actual numbers on there budget-wise. But if we're imbalanced on there on how we're charging them, that we need to be going down, and just in my own 1 of 9 opinion, down on some, so we're our cost of service are close to it on there with it. And so I think we need to take a kind of hard look at that on there. That we look at this overall, and if we're charging too much in some areas. And then one last suggestion, so I think we've kind of hurt by the per square foot costs. We're doing good in the commercial because why? We're percentage based. So any kind of inflation, things like that happen, that's automatically accounted for. But if we're on a square footage base and we know costs are going up, we have our normal inflation over time, we don't do it, then we're sitting here again 5 or 10 years later, and a fee schedule that is based on BOC or whatever metric that you do, but it's a construction base like you suggest in year 3. That then prevents these once every decade type larger things. So that's my thought on there, that we take a look, try to make sure we're not a big profit center, but the overall budget is balanced. Again, look at last fiscal year and our great budget report to this. You're like I say, you're $800,000 to the good so far this year.
And keep in mind, and thank you for your comments, we're not necessarily a profit center, right?
Yeah.
Because we are municipal, we want to be solvent at the end of each month. But we'll look at that, the unbalanced fee structure. So.
And I fully support the renovation, and we need to upgrade. It's a nice basic building on there, but make it look like a development services. And
thank you
more,
for that. And it's
11,000 needs rather than a bank.
And it's 11,000 square feet, the first floor. Right?
Yeah, right. Can I add to that response from Al? So, Councilman, in our budget fund schedules on page 203, the ending balance for this fund is $1.7 million, which is less than any of the other years presented there. That does include the fee increases, but it also includes increased spending to add more service. And just as you mentioned, you get the calls, I get the calls. What Al needs to do is staff up to meet the demand of an increased workload and development activity out there. So he can't do that if he doesn't have the revenue. So the budget assumes more services, more staff.
More staff, right.
This year, a lot of the savings come from vacancies, which Al and Steve has worked with him, as has the HR director. As Al has stepped up the requirements for professionalism, he's lost some staff members over the months, and he's rebuilding that team now. So some of the savings this year is from, he had a pretty high vacancy rate at one point.
Yeah. But as I look at these numbers, we could have $800,000 more and still be at that cost of service level. So I'm saying we need to take a real hard look at the numbers. Of course, we need more staffing. That's obvious.
So one thing I know from my prior experience is that the development community is willing to pay the fees and even impose additional fees on themselves so long as they get the service.
The service, right.
And one thing we have to focus on is, and Al had his performance measures, but quicker turnaround time, quicker inspection time, quicker review time, and better assistance. But all that comes with a fee to pay for the professionals that do the work. So it's a little bit of a balancing act.
When our phones light up as they see this fee schedule, we'll tell them that y'all want it. Peter Zanoni said you were requesting it. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Councilman Barrera.
Thank you, Mayor. Al, I have to say that, the service that you all provide, I know sometimes it comes with a good and a bad, but I know when I reach out to you, you guys, jump on it, and I really do appreciate it. And I know also that you and Nina have really worked hard on BOCO, so that way we could get that through, because like you said, time is money.
Right.
So I really thank you. I support the improvements to the building as well. I just want to let you know that. You mentioned something that's been a pet peeve of mine since I've been on the council, is the discounts for other taxing agencies. I'm just curious. You mentioned the Salvation Army. How much were the fees there?
Ooh,
Roughly.
that's a question I don't have an answer to. However, I can say this. It's not just those kind of, it's the schools, it's...
I know. I'm going to follow up with that.
Okay. So I can't answer now.
Okay.
We can get that for you.
I wouldn't be a supporter of increasing it to nonprofits, especially if we've got that. That would be very difficult. But my thing is that that's a contribution. Of course, I'm not sure where the funds came from. Councilman Smith, you probably would remember because we provided some support to the where's my notes? To the Salvation Army. I think we gave them some funds so that way they could build that building. But in addition, they're not counting the discount that we gave them as a contribution to the Salvation Army, and I think we need to get credit for that. I mean, I think if it's a $20 million building, we're looking at probably $120,000 in discounts. And, I think the city needs to get credit for that. And I think what's happened is that the building community takes it for granted. Now, on the public sector side, such as CCISD, I don't know, does anybody know what the fees were for Carroll High School? And ballpark it. Because you're looking at in excess of $100 million project. So would it be safe to say $1 million, $1.5 million?
I'm sure it was more than that, but keep in mind, they only pay half.
I understand.
So, yes.
So then we're giving CCISD a discount of $1 million. Now, mind you, it's taxpayer funds. But the thing is that we're contributing, it should be their taxpayer funds, not our taxpayer funds.
Understood.
So one way or another, the taxpayer is still paying for it, but the thing is that we're losing the revenue to be able to provide the service, while the only thing that the school district gets is a discount.
Right, well said,
So
actually.
I'm very much in favor of other public agencies. I know, and the reason I found out about this is, well, the same fiasco with the Port of Corpus Christi building, when they were trying to circumvent the fees. And I was really frustrated when I found out it was only 50%. And there you have an organization that, Councilman Smith, I know I keep referring to you. What was their profit last year?
About $40 million.
So 40,
and they charge us full price on dredge disposal fees too, 100 cents on the dollar.
So here we have an organization that has a $40 million surplus for the year, and we're giving them $150,000 discount. That just doesn't make sense to me. So with regard to all these fees that we're providing to the community that develops homes and residential, I think that we're missing the boat here with, and particularly, I know it's perceived that CCISD is a friend of mine, in which they are. I have a lot of friends on the school board. But, once again, I know that they've got, I don't know, they issued a procurement for maybe another $40 million in schools. And so that's lost revenue to the city of Corpus Christi. So I know that there's still additional capital improvements that other schools are going to do. And once again, it's the taxpayer is still paying for it. It's a matter of we're losing those resources to be able to provide the service that we need.
Right. I just want to make you aware that this budget, the fees in the package here, which I don't say in the presentation, but we are proposing to eliminate that discount.
Very good, very good. All right, all right. Now, I don't know if that I would be, once again, I would just want to reiterate, I don't know about how we would work it on the nonprofits, if there was a step basis or whatever, but I just think that we need to get credit for that contribution, so that way the nonprofit community knows that we're in their corner.
So, if council would like to, because all of this will come before you, assuming that it's passed, all of this will come before you in an ordinance. So if you'd like us to work out an ordinance that gives the discount, say, to nonprofits only, we could do that.
Okay, well, that's just my opinion. I'm sure my other colleagues would want to be briefed on it as well.
Okay, sure.
So, and I'd like to be briefed on those, so.
Sure.
Thank you very much. Appreciate the good work.
Thank you, sir.
Councilman Hernandez?
Okay, your fees are, how do I put this, more complicated than probably needs to be. Is there any way to simplify these to where?
Could you elaborate?
Well, I mean, for example, you separate your permit fees from your inspection fees, correct?
Yes.
Why not combine them?
Let me restate that. The building permit includes the inspection fees. The plan review fees are separated from the building permit fees.
So, okay, all right, so they are combined.
The building permit includes the inspections, yes.
Okay. All of them?
Yes.
Including the ones that we're not charging for?
Yes.
Okay, so you want to charge for them?
Yes.
But you want to include them in the permit?
Yes.
Okay, so you're just adding them to the permit?
Actually, yes.
On the front side or the back side?
On the front side.
The front side.
Because
okay.
Plan review fees, when someone submits for a plan review, we only charge, well, I'd like to only charge the plan review fee. And then when the plan reviews are approved, then they pay the building permit fee, which is all of the other permit fees and associated fees.
Okay, so why do we do it differently for commercial?
Because the state a few years ago required residential permits to be square footage based, which before everything was valuation based. This house costs about $200,000 and our fee is X. Residential, for whatever reason, the lobbyist at the state says, no, we're going to do residential differently, and that's why it's separated differently in our fee schedule.
Okay.
So commercial projects are valuation based. Residential projects are square footage based. Ultimately, it gets to the same dollar per se, but it's just how it's calculated.
Okay, so looking at the way you do commercial versus the way you do residential, looking at them from a percentage basis, I mean, just comparably, are you getting the same kind of rate of return?
The answer would be more of a guess, but I'll take a shot at it. It's not this. Actually, that's a good question. I can't really put my thumb on it because the commercial projects, like the Mary Carroll High School, or I'm racking my mind to think what are the big projects we've had recently. They're few and far between. People come in for tenant improvements, which means I want to move this over there, but nothing really voluminous. However, the residential side is very voluminous now, so it's hard to make a comparison. Are we getting the same bang for the buck?
Well, I mean, you pay the inspector the same whether they go to a commercial location or they go to a residential location, right?
Correct. However, as Peter was saying, it's taken me a while to get to a level to get people who because more than anything else, the inspector that goes out to the field, he doesn't have a group of people behind him saying, is that right? Can I do this? Should we allow this? So getting that level of competency, that level of professionalism, who in confidence that I know what I'm doing, I know the job that I should do. It's taken me a while to get those individuals, right? That's why, for example, many of you are getting calls like, "Geez, we never had to do this before, and look what they're making us do," and those kinds of things. So it's not bad. It's just that they're holding to the minimum standards that we've adopted, basically.
Okay, so I guess what I'm asking here is I want to make sure that, we're getting, equal recovery for services. I mean, I don't want to charge one more than the other.
Correct.
Just because one's commercial, you're paying the inspector the same amount.
Correct.
Going in there. So you can do kind of an internal valuation. You could still charge by your square footage, but just want to make sure you're getting, what I want to make sure is that we're not charging one group more than the other.
And in this case, we're certainly not, because even when we look at our records, and like I said, in 2018, the study that was done showed that, and
Okay,
they also did the
I mean, you're
benchmark.
asking us to increase fees on residential by 20% and nothing on commercial because it's based on a percentage, right?
But keep in mind, nothing on commercial plan review and inspections, but everything else, whether they plat or rezone or do public improvements or whatever else is in our hopper, everyone is going to be affected by the 20%. It's just that commercial is consistently where they should be in the plan review and inspection side. That's why we're not increasing those fees. We're not touching those fees, not even in the 20%. Just in year 3, when we get to the construction cost index, everyone then goes by the 2.75.
Okay, so like I s- Can you turn on your mic? Should have a green light on the mic.
Thank you. If I could add to that, our cost recovery is not the same for our residential fees currently.
Okay, well,
And
this,
that's based on the 2018, 2019 study. And so that's why we had the interest in.
okay, I'm not asking about cost recovery, right? I'm asking about fairness in terms of how you do commercial versus residential. Now, I know we have to do it differently by state law. That's okay, but I want to make sure that we're not charging one more than the other. There's, if you're going to be charging, I mean, you pay the inspector the same whether they go whatever location. So the idea is here to make sure we're recovering our costs equally.
Understood.
Okay, so that's what I'm asking there. And since Councilman Barretta had brought up school districts, I believe, is it my understanding that since there are independent government agencies, do they have to use us in terms of inspection, or can they use private inspections? Because the reason I'm asking that is because London ISD, the reason why they gave me for not requesting annexation was because they didn't want to pay our development services fees because they were too high.
Well, as you see, our fees are not high compared to our other larger cities around us. But yes,
I mean, because for the examples you
school
use for like
districts have
school
to use
districts,
us,
and
right?
they have to use us.
Yes, but federal, state-built federal and state organizations, buildings, agencies do not. They're exempt. But our current ordinance doesn't exempt schools. That's why we give them this break.
Okay, unless they're outside the city limits.
Unless they're outside the city. If they're not in the city limits, that's true. But keep in mind, every water contract obligates, those who get a water contract outside the city limits, part of the obligation is that they have to go through our permitting process. So in essence, that obligates them to do the same thing, whether it's a home or a commercial building or whatever.
Miles, can you verify that in terms of the requirements for inspection? Because I thought as a separate state agency, they have the option to use different inspection purposes.
Well, what you just described with respect to London, they're a separate state agency outside the city limits. you're outside the city limits. You don't have to follow our ordinances because you're outside the city limits. However, you won't get a certificate of occupancy from us if you don't follow our inspection practices. And some people need that.
So in terms of inspections, I mean, because obviously state law for private homeowners, you have to have some inspection, but it doesn't have to be necessarily city inspectors. It could be private inspectors, as long as you have some certified inspector reviewing your the construction. That took place, I want to say, Mike, I can't remember when that was, like about 10 years ago, maybe 8 to 10 years ago, when that state law took place, where you had to do that.
So the state developed a unified development building code for construction outside of city limits that were outside of the extraterritorial jurisdiction of the cities. And it was developed mainly to keep colonias from developing all over the place. That was what the main purpose of it. But Miles, I was going to say, inside the ETJ, it's different, or supposed to be, than it is outside, correct?
Well, the trick, it's not the ETJ that's the issue. The issue, well, because the ETJ has to do with platting. The CC, if they're getting water from the city, they have to agree to follow our inspections with respect to that.
Not only inspections, but zoning, everything else.
There's no zoning outside the city limits.
No. Okay, I'll Councilman Hernandez, I'll ask my.
Right. Well, so I just want to make sure that and I don't know if the port is a port in the industrial district, or are they in the city limits for their new building?
So the new building was in the city limits, which is why we got 125 eventually, ultimately.
Yeah. The answer is both. Some of the port is inside, some of the port is outside the city limits.
Okay. All right.
The new port office building is
there's
inside the city limits. The
office,
unplatted
construction
land is inside the city limits.
Yes.
So, I mean, just looking, I just want to make sure that they can just basically ignore us and then go somewhere else, that's not the case.
Correct.
And I guess you're looking at how we compare to other cities that are close to us. I guess San Antonio, Austin, how do we compare to cities that are more similar in size, like Arlington or Lubbock, or, those cities?
We didn't benchmark those cities, but we can, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
And I want to respond to the councilman's earlier comment. Mary Carroll High School, their building permit fee was $511,000, and they discounted what they paid. The city was $255,000.
Okay, Councilman Pusley.
And explain to me why the school districts get a discount?
It's an ordinance that was passed by council. I don't remember the year. Do you know, Nina? But it's an ordinance, and so school districts, other agencies, and churches.
So other governmental entities.
Yes.
We give them.
We give them
a break.
A discount on the building permit fee, not the plan review fee. Yes, sir.
Okay. So let me go here. I've got a couple of 2 or 3 questions, Al. On your building reconstruction, I'm sorry, let me find the page. It's 4.75 million, is that correct?
I'm sorry, let me get there.
For your building enhancement?
For remodel, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. And I'm sorry, I wasn't here last year when this was all done, but was this a bond or a CO, or how is this being paid for?
It's being paid for with our fund balance.
Your fund balance?
Yes.
Okay. So the excess over.
Right.
So would you say that the cost of that is since it's coming out of your fund balance, is being shared across the board from all of the fees and things that you collect?
That's correct statement. And I should also say, and which I didn't say in the presentation, it's the first and second floor, but it's also, it's building a new parking lot across Kennedy along Leopard, and it's reshaping our existing parking lot, on the front of the building and on the side of the building. It just doesn't work one-way traffic, and so we're just changing that to be easier, and I'm making larger parking spaces, because everyone that comes to our site has these big trucks, so, yeah, just make it a little more maneuverable.
Currently, you're surrounded on at least 3 sides by construction by the state
Exactly.
of Texas. So,
Exactly.
And I understand that, and it'll be much better when all that's over, I'm sure.
Hopefully, yes, sir.
Hopefully. Okay, I want to go to page 29 where you talk about the, let's see, is it 29? Hold on. No, the page where, I'm sorry, 33. Page 33 on these engineering services inspections that so these are new fees that you're planning, or that we have not charged before? Did I understand that correctly?
That's correct, and it's Development Services is just collecting these fees for engineering services, right? In our group now, we collect for utilities, we collect for parks, we collect for, there's one more, I can't remember. And so now we'll include engineering services in this process, and we collect all these fees through platting. When they're ready to record or plat, they've got to pay these fees first, and the plat gets recorded.
Okay, so tell me what type of work your department would do, and we'll just use Calico Estates as an example, where you've got 24.6 acres, 126 lots approximately. So what sort of work would this be covering?
This is Brett from Assistant Director with Engineering Services.
Yeah, good morning, Mayor and Council. So I'm Brett Van Hazel, one of the Assistant Directors for Engineering Services. So my team performs all the inspections for public improvements. So that includes curb, gutter, sidewalks, the road, any type of utility infrastructure that's put in underground. So we go out for any particular project. So if it's, say, a subdivision, we'll go out there and inspect that. And then when we reach a certain percent complete, 75%, then that will trigger an approval to Development Services to say, hey, they've met substantial completion for the development, and then our team will continue to monitor those punch lists, those final items to be complete, and then once those are complete, then we'll release the 100% to Development Services so we can go to the next phase of the development.
Okay, so what you're inspecting are things like when they plan a development on, they have a raw piece of land and they go out and they say, okay, we're going to put a subdivision here. We're going to put in streets, sidewalks, curbs, gutters. Those are the kind of things you're inspecting?
Correct. Anything that will be turned over to the city as infrastructure or an asset that we have to maintain.
So any underground infrastructure they put in place, you're inspecting all that?
Yes, sir.
And then, so heretofore, you have not charged for that service?
Correct. Typically, engineering services gets reimbursed from other operating departments to pay for that expense.
Okay. All right. Okay. So, yeah, obviously, Al, Peter and one of the things that I'm going to almost insist, this is my first budget here with the city, and it's new and different, but next year, I plan on being here one more year unless something happens. So I'll go through one more of these at least. But the next time that we do that, I would like to have this a day or two ahead of time to be able to look at, because, they've given us this budget book that weighs more than my Suburban. And, I'm going through that diligently, but it doesn't have the breakdowns in it that you provide in these. And these are important for us to understand, at least for me.
Understood.
And we need to have these ahead of time so that we have an opportunity to look at them and go over them so that we can ask questions and become informed, because I will tell you, when you hit the streets with all these fee increases, our phones are gonna start ringing.
Yeah, I concur with
We are
Mr. Pusley.
going to present this at 3 o'clock, and your phones will start ringing, I'm sure, shortly after
Yes.
that.
I'm sure they will.
Yeah, so we, and I understand what you're doing, and looking at the information you gave about, there's been 17 years since you've increased fees in some of these departments, or, I understand all that, and it seems to be on the surface totally justifiable, but we have to make absolutely certain that we're being fair and equitable across the board with these, and we're not just hitting one segment of our development community more than we are the other, I guess is
Understood.
what I'm getting at.
Yeah, and Councilman, if I may, I agree, and I think, that is the purpose, for you to bring forth something for us to have input, and then as elected officials, one way or the other, that's part of our job. And I've said, when I say we, I don't just mean me, when I say we're bringing in a new era of progress, that means difficult decisions. And that means we need to bring forth things that are not going to be easy. I'm not saying this is it. I agree with you. I think we need to, both of you said some you and all of you, but I mean, that I'm thinking of, that align are, let's make sure this is balanced. And when we know it is, there are 9 people here that were elected to do, not just keep the status quo, but to have that courage. And I hear you. All of our phones, and that's part of the job, though. That's part of our job, is to say, here's why, but you got to believe in it.
Oh,
And
no,
that means
and I'm perfectly fine with doing that, Mayor. I can be as courageous as you need me to be.
I know.
I voted for a 24-cent tax increase on the Colosso Midway School Board one time, so, I understand.
Yeah, no, and I know, but I want you to know.
They voted for parking on the grass, too.
Yes, exactly.
But I want you to know that I agree with you. And my point being is the balance. And again, Mr. Raymond, that's, I know you take that as constructive, and to say,
Yes,
okay,
of
let's
course.
make it, let's get it right where it needs to be.
As long as I'm convinced it's balanced and fair and
Right.
equitable,
Exactly.
I'm good.
Exactly.
Let's go.
And that's
And I want to let you know, I strategically did not push this out to the world because I wanted to
Right.
talk with you first, right? I wanted an opportunity to share with you the message.
Right.
Because you're going to hear a lot of different messages, and I wanted you to kind of know, dare I say, the truth. But you're right, as Councilman Hernandez said, to make sure, and perhaps we're just so used to it, we're so in depth, and we see things like it is balanced, but on the surface it just looks like, hey, you're beating up on one sector and not balancing it across the board. And so we'll certainly look at that and repackage it so that it shows the good, the bad, the ugly across the entire
Right.
spectrum.
We
Okay.
appreciate that. Does anyone else?
Thank you, and by the way, you guys do a great job, and I concur. Whenever I've called, you guys have given me detailed explanations of what you're doing, and I sincerely appreciate
Yeah,
that.
you absolutely do.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I absolutely love the way that sign looks at night.
Yeah.
It looks amazing, yes. I
It
love
changes colors too, we can do
Does
that.
it?
Yeah, we can program
really?
it. Yeah, you can
Yes.
program different colors. Right now, they've kept it at white, but you can program
Yes.
it whatever color you want. So if you
Oh,
something to match your
give me
dress or
some-
something, let us know. Yeah.
Just one other comment, Mayor.
Oh, we should.
We can, yeah, just let us know.
Well, we have a great, Councilman Martinez has a great idea. Said we should coordinate that with whatever the beach flag color is.
Okay.
We should do
Yeah,
that and put it
that's a
up.
good
It's
idea.
great idea.
Oh my gosh,
And
that's
I'll
a
go
great
see it.
idea. Great idea.
So, just one final thing, Mayor, are we proposing to remove the discounts for the governmental entities, or we're not?
We are in this budget
So
cycle.
we're gonna
yes.
remove that?
For everyone should pay, right? It still costs, it's still effort.
Yeah.
My thought behind this is it's still effort to get it done, so the discount, and anyway, it's just my thought for consideration.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
Councilman Hernandez has the comment, and then Mr. Lerma.
Okay, I noticed this, and I asked Peter this because I couldn't find it. But your project to do your construction on your first floor and second floor is not in the CIP. It's not in the book.
It's not in the document, so we'll have to put it in for the adopted budget. We'll make an amendment to the proposed budget. The fire portion of the redo is in, but the development services is not, so we'll put it in.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, the engineering service guys need to get their fee.
Yes, I know. Yes, I know. Yes. They are my friends too.
Thank you.
Just one last comment, Al. I mean, your department does a great job. They've always helped me out when I call.
Thank you,
I
sir.
have no issues with it. The developers out there on the residentials, they just need to understand that the gap has been so long that no fees have been raised, and it feels like we're all attacking them all at the same time, but it's just letting them know we need to catch up. We should have been doing this every 2 or 3 years, and we
Absolutely.
didn't touch it. So I just want them to know that we're not picking on them, it just needs to be done. It's very important. It's just because since 2002, 5 or whatever, we haven't touched it.
Right.
And if we want our city to grow and prosper, this is how we have
This is
to
a
do
part of
things.
it,
This
right.
is part of it, the ugly part of it, unfortunately. And yeah, we'll get the phone calls, but we'll answer, and if not, we just pass it over to Peter's office, no problem.
I'll take those anytime. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Well, that's great. You're saying we will get them. Thank you.
Mr. Raymond, thank you very much, and thank you to your team as well. Thank you.
Good, thank you, Al. Okay, our next department is Parks and Recreation. Our interim director, Dante Gonzalez, is going to present. And this parks budget does have some significant one-time investments in our park system. We have slides that lay out the detail of each one. We want to make sure improvements in every one of the districts in some of our large parks like Labonte and West Guth and others. So, Dante?
Good morning, Mayor, City Council.
Good morning.
Dante Gonzalez. It's still morning, right? Yes. Parks and Recreation Interim Director, and today I'm pleased to present to you the Parks and Recreation proposed budget. I brought with me my team, which is Lisa Oliver, who is the Interim Assistant Director, Kevin Johnson, Assistant Director, and also have my Superintendent, Nicole, and Jonathan Atwood, who is the manager at the marina. So our mission statement for Parks and Recreation is to manage the park system, offer recreational, social, and cultural activities to residents. Below are some of our programmings. I need to be clicking here, right? My apologies. There we go. All right. So below there are some of our programming sites within the Parks and Recreation system. We maintain playground equipment, manage the marina, Gulf and Bay beaches, and we host recreation and many other events within our recreation and senior centers. A little bit about our Parks and Recreation program. Parks and Recreation manages 22.6 miles of coastal shoreline, an average over 10,000 general contacts. General contacts are the public's interactions related to parks and recreation. And this past year, our lifeguards performed 34 water rescues and were able to conduct over 2,500 preventables, meaning that on-the-spot teachable prevention was performed. For example, pointing out that a possible rip current was there, or encouraging visitors to stay a little bit closer to land during rough surf conditions. Parks and Recreation staff cares for over almost 2,200 acres of parkland and maintains over 190 parks. We are also one of 20 CAPRA accredited agencies in Texas and one of 183 in the United States. CAPRA is the only national accreditation of park and recreation agencies, and it's a valuable measure of agencies' overall quality of operation, management, and service to the community. Next year, we will begin the accreditation process all over again, and the accreditation lasts 5 years. Our organization is divided into two sections. One section oversees beach operations, natural resources, aquatics, park operations in the marina. The other section, and this section is under the purview of Assistant Director Kevin Johnson. Over programming, community services, and recreation services such as senior centers, recreation centers, special programming, and special permits, it's under the purview of Assistant Director Lisa Oliver. Some of our most notable achievements for fiscal year 21 included planting 230 trees at 6 park locations, which included Labonte, West Guth, Los Encinos, Lincoln, Lyons, and Mike Cepeda Park. These trees would not only provide shade, but also promote environmental conservation. I am happy to report that all trees are still green and they continue to grow. A second achievement was the successful hosting of TAF Games of Texas. The Games of Texas drew over 5,500 amateur athletes, 15,000 spectators, and featured 13 sports. All of this couldn't have been done without the assistance of our key partners, and we certainly thank them for the success of the Games of Texas for 2021. Next year, we're scheduled to host the second year, and we expect similar turnout or even greater turnout. The third achievement is the establishment of park enforcement program for Cole Park and Bayfront Parks. The program added 6 full-time park enforcement officers, and so far we have successfully interviewed and chosen 4 out of the 6 candidates. Pretty soon, Cole Park and Bayfront Park visitors will notice an increase in park enforcement at these highly visited parks. Another achievement was the installation of 25 new playgrounds across city parks. This year, as we're setting up the new playgrounds, we're also implementing the use of Maximo software. Maximo is a computerized maintenance management system that is used for asset lifecycle and workflow process management. It tracks all service requests, preventive maintenance, labor costs, and what it'll do is it'll minimize asset failures, it increase asset reliability, it reduce costs and improve capital budget planning, and it will also extend the life of our assets.
Yeah,
Great job, Gil.
And yes, so we are moving forward with this. We have already trained some of our staff. We're already implementing a pilot program with at least 6 of our staff members, and we have intermediate users, and we're going to move into a little bit more of an expert use. We are inputting every single of our equipment into this Maximo, as well as also implementing some of our park mowing schedules, and then be able to track that way. Our performance measures for last year, as part of our key performance, we have projected to mow approximately 31,500 acres of parkland, and we have estimated that next year we will mow approximately 33,000 acres. With the pandemic still upon us, some people searched to visit outdoor venues, and then the beach was a perfect place. This year we have surpassed last year's permit sales at 166,000, and we have projected to sell approximately 185,000 this year. Our target for next year will be 194,000. The annual number of recreation program registration also increased as compared to last year. However, our program registration is still suffering the effects of the pandemic, as we're still seeing low registration numbers compared to previous years. For example, in FY19, we had about 70,000 program registrations and over 200,000 annual drop in contacts for our programs. That means that we're only seeing about 35% rebound in our registrations and about 20% rebound in our participation within our programs. The drop in participation reflected in the revenue budget, since the biggest reduction was at the after-hour Kid Power program. For our services, Park Services operates with 110 positions for Park Services, whose primary task is to maintain our beautiful parks. Currently, we are working on the Parks and Recreation 10-year master plan, which I encourage the community to go and take the survey, which is still active, so that we can use your input. This 10-year master plan with your input would be driving force behind the decisions of our beautiful parks, and you can still access the survey at www.cctexas.com/parksmasterplan. Another of our services is the Gulf and Bay beaches with 160 positions. Corpus Christi beautiful beaches are the heart and soul of Texas Gulf region. Corpus Christi Parks and Recreation Department cares for 2 bayfront beaches, which is North Beach and McGee, and a designated stretches of beaches along the Gulf at Mustang Island and also at North Padre Island. Our recreation service operates with 382 positions, and the role is to ensure the success of programming like the after-hour Kid Power, athletics, special events, park enforcement, community centers, and the community engagement. And our newest addition, the Marina, the only major downtown marina on the Texas coast, operates with 17 positions. During our community input, we also received some questions regarding shade structures as playgrounds and the possibility of adding other shade structures. I think you will see in our enhancements that we have a significant amount of shade structures for the community, and we're one of our other metrics and our current norm is that every time we're installing a playground, as you can see on one of these pictures here on the top left, the playgrounds contain a shade structure, so to provide some of that shade. Also in the enhancement section, you will see a significant amount of shade structures, as I mentioned, in some of the other regional and community parks. That shade structure is at West Guth Park, by the way. For fiscal year '22, Parks and Recreation proposed budget is $38.4 million, and the breakdown includes $24.1 million in general fund. In our special revenue funds, the proposed budget includes $2.8 million in hotel occupancy tax budget, $4 million in state hotel occupancy tax, and $1.2 million in the visitors facility fund. Our enterprise funds proposed budget totals $4.9 million and includes $30,000 in the golf revenue in the golf fund and $4.9 in the marina. Our grants proposed budget is comprised of $1.4 million. And in our personnel section for FY22 compared to FY21, it includes a variance of 17 positions for general fund, which there's a variance of 9 positions, and I will cover those positions in the enhancements portion of this presentation. As for the shot fund variance, this includes the 6 new park enforcement officers that will be at Cole Park and Bayfront Parks. And at the marina, the variance of 2, I will also cover during the enhancements portion. Our proposed budget for general fund is funded through general fund resources at $13 million. Program fees and rental and facility rentals are $4.1 million, $0.9 million from beach parking permits, and $2.3 million from the hot fund. This year, $3.8 million from the fund balance. The breakdown of the proposed budget expenses includes $9.4 million towards parks, $8.5 million towards recreation, and $6.2 million towards the beaches. In our proposed budget for special revenue funds, it's currently funded through SHOT Fund at $3.7 million, HOT Fund at $2.8 million, and the Visitors Facility Fund at $1.2 million. SHOT funds are an important aspect of our budget as they help to fund the maintenance of our Gold beaches and our Bay beaches. The HOT funds help maintain multicultural services and our grant projects. And the Visitor Facility funds help maintain our Bayfront Science Park as well as our cultural facility maintenance, which is Heritage Park. For FY22, the proposed budget for enterprise funds is funded through the marina revenue, which includes slip rental, dry dock storage, and special events, and through reserves of $2.5 million, which is the insurance claim reimbursement from Hurricane Hannah. And finally, our proposed budget for grants, which is funded by the Texas Department of Family Protective Services at $0.4 million, AmeriCorps at $0.5 million, and the Texas Health and Human Services Commission at $0.5 million. They fund programs such as the Elderly Nutrition Program, the Community Youth Development, the Retired Senior Volunteer Program, and the Senior Companion Program. Which leads us to the enhancements section. We do have a significant amount of enhancements that I think you guys will really enjoy. For one of our enhancements, we have included a landscape architect to aid in the beautification of parks and landscape, and also to integrate city branding. This position will also reduce our current contracts and will increase our contracts that we send out, and it would also increase our project capacity since projects won't have to be bidded out unless they're very special projects. Another enhancement is the addition of 8 additional swim instructors to expand the summer swim instruction program at 26,000. The 8 additional summer aquatic instructors will increase staff from 8 to 16. And the summer instruction program is important as it aims to improve resident swimming's basics and skills.
Dr. Gonzalez, what do we charge for those swim lessons right now?
I believe it's $50 per lesson, per week, right? $50
per week. Okay, and how many times do they go every day, or is it so many days a week, or do we know? Okay.
10 times.
Well, yeah, but I don't know. 8 sessions for $50.
8 sessions for $50.
1 hour, I guess.
Right.
That's a private, or is that a group?
That's a private.
No, I'm sorry. The group swim lessons are $50 per session per child.
I'm sorry.
Say that again, Lisa. The group.
It's the $50 per session per child.
So it's $50 per session per child, and that's a group.
Correct.
It is a group. A group of how many?
Currently, due to COVID, they average about 4 students per class, 4 to 6.
Per session? No.
Yeah.
Okay.
We don't give a family package if a family has 4, it's pretty tough for them to report.
Yeah, we're gonna have to use our, thank
It's hard for them to be able to afford $200 a week.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
All right. So for our aquatics maintenance, we have projected $21,000 to provide a fresh coat of paint to the Oso and Greenwood Park pools. Without the new paint, the pools will continue to deteriorate and the availability to the community will be limited. This enhancement will help prevent that. And this year we have projected to have service over 80,000 visitors at our pools, which is double the amount of people that visited in FY19. We also have another enhancement, which is the palm tree upkeep contract at $34,000.
God bless you.
Park and Recreation maintains over 2,500 palm trees by using a mixture of contracts and parks personnel. Palm trees require special equipment, and especially when they are over 20 feet tall, the additional funds will help to increase our contracts and provide adequate maintenance for these trees.
So this is, it's going to supplement,
This is going to supplement, correct?
citywide?
For
Parks, I'm sorry, well, parks.
For parks,
citywide.
right.
Yeah, okay. Parks, good, great, thank you. Mr.
And, you know,
Hernandez?
we're always available also to help out.
Sure.
You know, so it indirectly, in a way, if we're being asked, you know, we do help out.
Right, right. Did you have a question now or later, Mr. Hernandez?
No, thank you, Mayor. I was going to comment on the how $700,000 would go to a long way to pay for a lot of swimming lessons.
would.
14,000 actually.
Sure would, Mr. Hernandez.
Just wanted to remind.
Throw it
there's
out
that funding
there.
out there. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Of course, a lot of little swimmers. Go ahead.
All right. So our next enhancement is a significant $2.9 million investment into our parks as part of an enhancements. These funds will be able to provide significant park amenities at 10 regional and community parks. And in the next slides, I will take some time to break down the significant park amenities that the community will be able to enjoy. So for our enhancement, I'll just break it down by parks. At Levante Park, we have a schedule to install 20 shade structures with picnic tables, 20 barbecue pits, 20 benches, and 7 horseshoe pits.
Can we change the slide? I'm sorry.
Oh, yes. There you go.
Okay, thank you.
At Levante Park, so we have scheduled, just to reiterate it, 20 shade structures with picnic tables, 20 barbecue pits, 20 benches, and 7 horseshoe pits. At Levante, you can camp overnight, and horseshoes they will be a great addition to the camping experience for anyone who is visiting that particular park.
Can I add to that, Dr. Dante? We also have money for a master plan of Levante.
Yes.
Councilman Lerma and I talked about, so that's in the budget to do a master plan.
Right.
We're also going to connect the 2 pieces of property that we own, the former Cunningham Water Treatment Plant.
Oh, right.
It's adjoined, that's all the city property, so we're going to make that one big park. And Councilman Lerma's also talked to me about RV park equipment, where you can camp overnight with an RV park plug-in. That'll come with the master plan, but just want to highlight that as well.
Yeah. Councilman Molina.
Thank you, Mayor. I just had a question about that Levante Park improvements. These new amenities here, touching on what the city manager has said, are these going to be installed in the extended area of the park, or this is for the existing footprint?
The existing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
there will be some replacements on there. If you have visited Levante Park, there are some benches that need a little bit of care.
Yeah.
And this will definitely improve that. I think in particularly the shade structures will also be a great benefit, since there's a lot of people out there that go fishing that would benefit from having a shade structure right next to them.
Okay, so once we connect the two, or extend the footprint of the park, that's when we'll look at adding more amenities to that newer section. Okay,
exactly.
Got it.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you.
Mhm. And we do have that as part of one of our enhancements, as the master plan for Levante in one of our later slides.
Councilman Pusley?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Okay, I want to talk about this just a second, and I know this is near and dear to Councilman Lerma's heart, but I want to remind everybody, you know, we're slating to spend taxpayers' money on these amenities, and that park floods constantly. The reason TxDOT was here yesterday telling us that they were going to raise that bridge 5 feet is because numerous times over the last 5 or 6 years, water has been to the bottom of that bridge.
That's right.
And one or two occasions has been over that bridge. So anything you put in Labonte Park in that existing area, not where the old water treatment plant is, which is at a higher elevation, is going to be subject to flooding. So I'm just telling you, whatever you spend there, whatever you put down there, you better make sure it can withstand being underwater for 4 or 5 days, because it's going to happen. You can write it on a wall in here somewhere. It's going to happen. So before we go spend a bunch of taxpayers' money putting amenities in there, we better be absolutely certain what we think we're going to do. Because the soccer league moved out of that park for that very reason.
Yeah, Dr. Gonzalez, good point, and I think we had a conversation about that in terms of the dirt, remember, moving?
Yes.
But I think taking that into consideration before we do,
Yeah.
have any actual expenditures.
Yeah,
is
and
gonna
the
be
the insulation will be, I don't know if this is a word, but it'll be flood tolerant. So we'll be making
Right.
sure it's installed properly.
Right.
So it can withstand submerged
We
water.
put some things like that in Hazel Bazemore Park, which is a county park.
Right.
Which is also subject to flooding in the lower levels. But we made all of those items removable so that before flooding started, we usually had some time to prepare. We would remove those things and move them to higher ground.
Yeah, okay, we can look at that as well.
But if you go build a shade structure out there and it floods, it's going to wash it away.
Well, there's some there today, as you know, Councilman.
Well,
but they're in real
they've been
bad
built
shape.
since the last flood.
Right. Yeah.
And
Well, as long as we
I'm
keep
just
that
telling
in
you,
mind,
Yeah.
obviously.
I know it's a city park, but
Yes, sir.
No, that's definitely something that we'll keep in mind.
Councilman Lerma.
That's very, very important. That's the gateway into Corpus Christi, Labonte Park is, and there's nothing there welcoming the anybody that comes through the city. I understand that it floods, but there's materials that can be used that are flood prone, that won't rust out and things of that sort. I think that's what we need to discuss, what kind of materials. We can also help in raising where the benches and the structures are going to be a little higher. That type of thing. I mean, there's different ways of looking at this. This is just something that we already discussed, we talked about, but you need improvements on there because it is considered a park, and it's a huge park for our city of Corpus Christi, and that's very, very important out there,
No, and I understand that, Councilman Lerma, and my job here is to support you guys on things that you're doing like this, and I want to do that. But, the city went and spent thousands of dollars of taxpayers' money to build a community welcoming center at Labonte Park. And it flooded so many times and went underwater so many times that the city tore it down here 4 or 5 years ago. So it's not a little flooding that we're subject to there, and I realize it's a gateway and everything, but I just want us to all be cognizant of the fact that whatever you put there has to be extremely tolerant to not only flood, but rapidly moving water.
That's correct. I agree with you, Councilman. There's no question about it. Peter and I have talked about it. We just have to be careful on how we put these structures. We're not going to put a building out there. We're going to put shade structures. That's a big difference. And there's materials that can be used for that. But that needs an improvement. And a lot of the benches, like you said, are deteriorated. The barbecue pits aren't worth any beans anymore, that type of thing. So, we need to just enhance it. I'm not asking you guys to build any huge buildings out there or anything like that. But this will make a big improvement, and then once we attach the other part to it, that's where the fun part starts, with the master plan.
Right.
That's the area that we can really concentrate on and develop it into a great park. Okay, thank you very much.
I can also say that the system Maximo will also be able to help us in making sure that these structure are continue to get maintenance on and remind us that it needs to get maintained.
Great, thank you, Dr. Gonzalez. And I don't think we have any other questions.
All right. Our next enhancement, which is also in District 1, is in West Guth Park, and that's the development of a scheduled addition of a dog park. This would be our third dog park once it gets built.
Oh, at Wesca?
Mm-hmm. For District 2, we have Lindale Park, which is, we have scheduled 2 new water fountains, 1 new playground unit with shade, and 1 shade structure with a picnic table.
Water fountains as in the,
Drinking water fountains.
oh, okay.
Right. So
Okay.
this.
I thought it was
no.
going to be some beautiful,
Right,
huge water fountain.
No,
Does it have
pictures-
lights?
Unfortunately, the pictures just represent just kind of a reminder of what particular park that is. It's not
Drinking water
It's
fountain.
drinking water fountains, correct.
Great.
And, just to kind of elaborate a little bit on that, these water fountains are kind of like a 3 for, it has the water fountain where
Right.
people can drink,
Right.
adults can drink. It also has the smaller size one on the side for
Right.
kids. And then it
Yeah.
also has a doggy ball at the bottom.
The very important one.
It's very
the
important.
dog.
Yes.
Thank
and
you.
that is our current standard at this time.
Good. Good to hear.
For District 2, we also have a Sherwood Park, which also would include a dog park there.
Where's Sherwood Park located? Who's to? Councilman Barrera? No. Yes. No, Molina. I'm sorry. I get those two. Where Sherwood is located? Where?
Sherwood Park is located.
Oh, sorry. Put you on the spot there.
Yeah.
Dr.
It's in
Gonzalez,
District 2.
where's Sherwood Park?
No, it's off Staples, near the Walmart area.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes,
it's surrounded by a significant amount of
Okay.
homes, Councilman, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And we're going to, okay, is this a developed park or is it, or do we have swings and that?
There's nothing on that
Really? It's
piece of
just-
That
property.
picture, yeah, the picture's pretty representative of what's there.
Well, I was hoping
very
we just
bare.
didn't
Yeah.
encapsulate
nothing there.
the
Yeah.
swings.
I know.
Yeah.
So we're going to start, okay, with the dog park.
Right.
Yeah.
But we'll have plans, I guess, to improve it after that as well?
That is
Yeah.
correct.
Okay.
Let me just follow this. So they're at Sherwood Park. So if I could just back one more, I forgot to mention this for District 1, since we all just went through. There's also other improvements that are designated for McNorton Park, Brook Hill Park, and Academy Park through the Bond 2020.
Where's that? On the next slide? or
That's
the
in
one-
District 1. It's not on the
Oh,
slide.
it's not on the slide. I'm sorry.
Correct,
Well,
yeah.
you said back it up.
For
Okay.
District 2, to answer your question, Mayor,
Sure.
Sherwood Park is also scheduled to receive a new playground and other shade structures as
Okay,
well.
great.
So Sherwood Park is located in that neighborhood behind Annapolis Christian Academy, off Staples.
Oh,
Back
yeah.
in that neighborhood.
Okay.
There's a lot of residential.
Yeah, great. Great.
Yeah.
Okay, thank
Yeah,
you.
so there are significant improvements going on.
Okay, great.
Furthermore, in District 2, at Cole Park, we also have, we recognize and we know that our community, especially our little ones, and I have 3 little ones, so they'll really enjoy this. They love splash pads. So we have included a new splash pad at Cole Park at $500,000. For District 3, we have included $450,000 for Salinas Park. And this would be access sidewalk to the walking trail and the parking lot.
Councilman Barrera?
Is this in addition to the $1 million that we've already set aside? Excellent, excellent.
Correct. This is in addition to that.
Okay, are we also going to have an access sidewalk? Remember, on the Greenwood side, where the ballparks are, it's just there's not a lot of accessibility, from that neighborhood to be able to come across the street. Now, that neighborhood is District 2, but...
Is it really? Well, and to add to that, Councilman Barrera, and we had a conversation about this as well, is and when I noticed this is when I had the run out there at Salinas Park. There's no accessibility to any of the neighborhoods. Like, you have to go all the way around, we talked about this, to the entrance of that. So like a mom with a stroller can't get to the park. So I don't know if it's in the million. I mean, we had
This
spoken
is,
about
yeah,
this.
so this 450,000 that's on the slide, this is to connect that exact neighborhood to the park.
Oh, this is
Yeah.
for the connection.
This is for the connection from,
Walking trail.
looking on that picture of the neighborhoods here, you'll connect to the park, so they don't have to go all the way around.
But I mean, is it one connection? That's a lot of neighborhood. I mean, a lot of neighborhood there.
I think there's 2, Neiman, let's hear from Neiman.
Yes, ma'am, and I'm stepping into the conversation because specifically I've been working with the engineering department based off of the feedback that I received from the mayor and Councilman Barrera regarding interconnectivity from those residential areas to the park. And this $450,000 is that monies that's being plugged into on top of the $1 million for the project to ensure that there is accessibility. It has two different access points, one to the northern portion of the residential areas and one to the eastern portion of the residential areas, where they'll come into a parking lot that'll be assessed by both those residential areas, and then there'll be a walking trail to actually enter into the park and make sure that they have access to that track area that's in Salinas Park.
Excellent, excellent, excellent.
Excellent.
And I might also add that, you know, when I had talked to Public Works, they had also indicated because Airport Road not being a highly traveled road with regard to the 4 lanes that it has, that they could probably put in a bike path, not a bike path, but, you know, yeah, exactly, to be able to provide a room for cycling as well. So, I mean, it's a great park. It's used quite a bit, and I really appreciate the capital that you're putting into this. You know, so thank you.
Yes, thank you.
I also like to point out that during our input session, our community input session, they asked about sensory playgrounds, and Salinas Park has a type of sensory playground there, equipment. You know, the kids can go there and play like a little keyboard, a xylophone. It's a really great park.
All right. Here, one other thing. I just want to say kudos to you, your staff, and Dr. Gonzalez and Dr. Marcus. That has a nice ring to it. For also working with Commissioner Gonzalez on his water feature over at New Haven Park. I know we're investing $175,000 to provide support that, as well as the connectivity to the water feature, which is in the West Oso area. So thank you very much for that. I know the community appreciates it.
And you know, to expand a little bit on that, we're also putting a pep on the step on that as well, and you guys will be seeing that pretty soon. You will see that agreement coming
Well, I know
through.
Dr. Gonzalez is going to want to, Commissioner Gonzalez is going to want to have a ribbon cutting when we do that, and I'm sure the mayor will be happy to be there.
Yes, I will.
We'll put you down on the schedule already.
Right now. Sure
For
will.
District 4, Village Park, we also have there an addition of 1 shade structure and 2 shade structures with the picnic table. Parker Park, we have the addition of 4 shade structures with picnic tables and the replacement of 2 water fountains, drinking water fountains. And for District 5, there's $500,000, and I think you guys have a slide that's a little bit outdated. So let me just make sure and reiterate that. The general improvements, the $500,000 are to be determined after the finalization of the Bill Witt Park Master Plan. And these are just some of the examples that my staff and I had kind of considered, but obviously we're going to take into consideration, well, not into consideration, but we're going to utilize the Bill Witt Master Plan to recommend what things need to be added to and amenities to this. One of the conversations that I had with Commissioner Hernandez was, you know, there's a lot of drive-through traffic through there. So that's something that we're also considering, and to kind of mitigate that and kind of prevent people from going through that and tearing up that parking lot, which is not meant for traffic to go through.
And can I also add that Neiman's working on a revision of the community enrichment funds. Councilman Hernandez knows that a lot of those funds came from subdivisions around Bill Witt Park, so we'll be bringing some revisions to council soon, policy revisions for council's consideration on how those fees are charged, and a potential revision on how they're spent as well.
Councilman Hernandez. Councilman Barrera.
Okay, I was going to actually bring this up a little later on when in discussion with the CIP with community enrichment funds. You have a lot of community enrichment funds programmed over the next 2 years, totaling $1 million. But the auditor is going to be auditing the community enrichment funds as part of the phase 2 of the parks audit, which includes ballparks, the community enrichment funds, and other funds. I would ask that we wait until we get results from that. I know we've asked for financial records from the Development Services as well as Finance. That was asked for last month. I don't think that has been received yet. I was wondering if you can make sure that they get that information. But, I want to make sure that whatever was collected prior to a policy change is used as what it was meant for, and then anything collected after can be addressed with a new policy. But as far as how that money is spent, I want to make sure we're spending it appropriately with the existing policy. And, we hadn't been tracking this. I remember I know I've been asking for this for a long time, and it was just never really a good accounting for community enrichment funds. So before we spend any of it, I want to make sure we know where all of it is, how much goes to where, and what is, anything associated with community enrichment funds should be, we should go through that process first before spending any of it. Okay, thank you.
Councilman Pasley.
Yes. I have a question going back to West Guth Park here. And I'll tell you, we're going to spend $500,000 to build a place for dogs to go to the bathroom. Is that correct?
No, it's a place where dogs can freely run around and engage with other
$500,000
other doggies. Well, it is expensive to build those particular parks. It also includes
I mean, there's
a
one
lot of
there and
sensory.
there's $400,000 at Sherwood Park. That's almost $1 million for dogs in a park. I mean, I would, West Guth has a swimming pool, but they don't. Maybe we ought to look at putting some swimming lessons there. But
No,
I just think that's exorbitant, but that.
This is, to partially answer your question, the community has requested for us to increase dog parks. I think this would be a great addition for that particular population, and it does include significant. It's a significant size in dog park, which would be useful for that particular community.
Okay.
And in addition, sir, I shared the same concern when I first got the expenditure reports on the build out of the dog park at Bill Witt, and you would think that it was something as simple as putting up a gate, having a couple dog runs, and boom, you have a dog park, but that's certainly not the case. You have to take into account drainage, stormwater, and all the other engineering requirements to ensure that whatever is built on that park for that dog park doesn't impact the surrounding area. So that's what leads to those increased costs. And I know that there would be a question on, well, why we're going to invest $1 million in dog parks, and the reality is that's what the community demands.
Right.
Just in our early feedback.
Have we done any surveys? I mean,
Yes.
I know the city has some existing dog
Yes.
parks. Have we done any surveys on how much those get utilized?
More so, if you all recall that we had just received that update from the Parks and Recreation
'Cause
Master
I go
Plan.
by this one downtown here all the time. I don't ever see a dog down there anywhere.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
On the weekends. There's lots of dogs
So,
out
so the updates from the Parks and Recreation Master Plan, dog parks consistently remain in the top 3 demands for increased amenities in our facilities across the city. And because of that feedback that we have received from those early surveys that we're receiving from the Parks and Recreation Master Plan, we decided to get ahead of that since we are in the budget cycle and are including and programming more dog parks into our facilities, because we know that's going to be coming down the pipeline from the results of the Parks and Recreation Master Plan at the end of the year. So get the programming, get the funding here now, so when we do receive the finalized results in December, we'll already be ahead of the game to go ahead and move forward in response to the citizen feedback.
Okay, well, I just think it's exorbitant to spend $1 million on a dog park, but that's just my personal view. And obviously, we need one at Bill Witt Park here, because this picture you submitted here, aren't dogs supposed to be on a leash in the park if they're not inside a dog park gate?
The Bill Witt
Actually,
one
that's
is at
inside.
There is a dog park, Councilman, at Bill Witt. It was built with bond
Is
program.
that where they're at? They're in the dog park?
They're in the dog park,
That's the dog
and it's a gated, it's a fenced-in area
Okay.
on Bill Witt.
Okay, I also wanted to say on the lighting that you have proposed for the miradors on the seawall, which I think is great. But as you know, those miradors were the cost of those were donated by the Durrell Foundation. And I just think it would be nice before we do anything to those miradors that we meet with the Dural Foundation and make sure they're okay with what we're doing. Because they put up the money to build all of those.
Yeah, we can do that, Councilman, and it's not just for the Miradors, but the whole, there'll be some engineering assessment done, but the length of the seawall is dark in certain areas.
I think that's great. I think
Right.
it's very well needed, and especially for the Miradors.
Right.
But,
But that's a good point. We'll visit with them.
and it'd just be nice to let them know. And I had another question, but I lost it when I was thinking about dog parks, so.
All right. So our,
I'm sorry, we have one more question, Councilman Smith.
Okay, thanks. I agree and disagree with Councilman Pusley on there. I think dog parks, and this is from personal experience in my 1,500-person community, it's a very popular feature with it. And on the one we built out there, it's fences and a gate and you know, in a drained area, and we had put water in. So a dog park is a great amenity for our community, and B, we can build them relatively inexpensively, or we can build them expensively. It's just kind of our choice. And then another, I met with Dante yesterday on the community enrichment funds. I want to thank him for the work he's doing on that. It looks like a great plan. My one question is, when can you present it to us? So I think it answers a lot of questions that Councilman Hernandez was talking about. But I know for myself, it's a simple plan. It looks like easy to administer and reflects the geographic areas of our city.
yeah, and, you know, we have a potential date of August 31st to bring that to council.
Councilman Molina.
Thank you, Mayor. I've been advocating for dog parks with city staff, and I did try to request that we fence in portions of like Louisiana Parkway or Bronner Parkway, and just call that a dog park. But like Dr. Young, not Dr. Marcus, had said, that there are there's a lot of planning and design that goes into these dog parks, and it's more than just letting your dog run out and play. When you have dog parks in the community, it brings people out, it gets people to the park. I go to the one downtown, more so on the weekends, and when I go, I take my dog, which is a foster failure from our own animal shelter. He gets to socialize with other dogs, but while we're there, my kids get to enjoy the playground equipment there. My family gets out and we start walking along the seawall and just enjoying what we have. And so not only does it help in that sense, but it gets us out of the house and gets us exercising where we normally probably wouldn't have. It is something that I've heard from the community. Like you said, it's one of the things that is really, really important and has been asked for, and so I fully support having more, and I'm going to continue advocating for more dog parks in our city.
Great, thank you, Councilman Molina. Yes.
Thank you.
Councilman Pusley.
Yeah, that was the other thing I forgot, is the community enrichment funds. I've had numerous conversations with Dr. Young about getting that information to us, and it's very important. I thought we were going to have it with this presentation, but maybe I misunderstood Neiman. I thought we were going to have it sooner than this, but this is something there's numerous ones of us. I've been asking for this since I was elected, so I just want to say we need to get that done.
So you'll definitely get an update. Like I said, our proposed date right now is August 31st, and that's when you'll see a presentation related to the CEF.
Yeah, and I want to be clear. I didn't say I was against dog parks. I just don't understand why it costs $500,000 to build a fence to keep dogs in.
Dogs are expensive.
Exactly.
Dogs are expensive.
And people want them, Okay, so I think that's all of our questions.
All right. So
Oh, I'm sorry.
I apologize.
Did you want to?
Mr. Molina has one more question.
Okay. Did you, can I just, on a process check, it is a little past noon. Did you want to pause and we can resume the parks briefing at Tuesday's meeting? Dr. Dante has a little bit more to go through to include the marina. So it's up to you, Mayor. We could take that question and call it for today and resume Tuesday. You just tell us what you all want to do. Okay.
Let's take the question. Ms. Merlin has a question.
Okay.
And then if we can wrap it up, being that we were scheduled for noon, and we'll resume on Tuesday.
On Tuesday at 10.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Great.
Thank you, Mayor. And this question may be answered, towards the end of the presentation, but, we have 25 new playgrounds, or I guess replaced playgrounds.
Right, correct.
That you've already completed.
Correct.
Are there any plans in this budget to move forward with replacing more playgrounds throughout the city?
Yes, absolutely. It's specifically, is there a specific district? A lot of our districts have new playgrounds that have it. District 2 has 4 new playgrounds. District 3, District 4 has 3 new playgrounds. I apologize. District 4 has 3 new playgrounds: Windsor Park, Retta Park, and Duden Park. I think that's one of the ones that we've been getting a lot of feedback on. We do have that in as part of a replacement of the new playground, as well as new shade structures.
Okay, yeah, I just
for
wanted to make
District
sure.
5, Crossgate, Brighton, Brandywine, and Captain Falcone Park.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that as we continue moving forward, that where there's an opportunity for us to replace or improve our playground equipment on our existing parks, that we can continue doing that. Thank you.
And, I'll bring it back again to Maximo. Maximo will be able to tell us when these need to be replaced and when they need to be maintained.
Thank you, Councilman Hernandez, for the Maximo advocating.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Gonzalez.
We'll see you again Tuesday.
Yes, sir. Thank you. I'll adjourn the meeting now.